Where are the low-value men?
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site. You can believe that. You can believe that. You can believe that.
Contracted COVID, but says with a mixture of medicines, including the controversial horse dewormer that has poisoned hundreds of people nationwide, he's now recovered.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
From the headlines to the whispers dark. Low value mail. Low value mail at 90 Park. We're truth fiction. Take a walk.
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon? You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Our stories are.
What's up, Scroats? Welcome back to an all-new episode of Low Value Mail on this Monday, August 4th, 2025, the year of our Lord. Apologize for starting a little late today. Just having a couple technical issues. We do have a guest. Someone says no guest. Oh, we do have a guest, Dylan. You best believe your sweet ass we got a guest. But it's episode number 156 of Low Value Mail. Joining me in the second hour, we have Ernie LaBrecque. Ernie is the co-host of the podcast Virginia is for Conspiracy Lovers. Covers Virginia-centric hidden history, conspiracy, high strangeness, and true crime. Again, sorry I started a few minutes late, having a few technical issues. My headphones are all fucked up all of a sudden. I don't know why. Also, we have a new producer, and we were kind of running through some things and had a little kinks, but I think we got it all sorted out. If you want to support the show, you can drop a super chat, sign up for the channel, or patreon.com/lowvaluemail, MAIL. And yes, we do have a new producer starting this week, none other than an OG Scroat. He's been here since maybe episode 1, Gerard Perry. Everybody, you might know him from the chat. He's going to be helping me out, answering phone calls. It's his first day, so you got to give him the first day treatment, everybody. You got to give him the first day treatment. Zoom is a real pain in the ass, and he's got to use Zoom, and he doesn't use Zoom. Why is everybody saying start over? Redo? I don't know. But anyways, Gerard is the new. This is what I get for looking at the chat. I look at the chat, and then you guys are all just trying to fuck me up. Real scrope behavior on your parts. But anyways, Gerard is going to be answering the phones. Bear with him, because it is a little steep, a bit of a steep learning curve. But I'm very hopeful everything goes off without a hitch this week. But if not, it's not called high value mail, is it? It's not. It's called low value mail. But shout out to Gerard. I think everybody loves Gerard. And we're happy to have him. Okay. Let's get to it. I know I talk about AI. I know I'm an AI doomer. I know there's all sorts of stuff going on in the world. Fucking Sydney Sweeney and her huge rack. I don't care about it. That is one of the most just absolutely nothing burger story that it is. I will say I wasn't even going to talk about this. I didn't have anything planned regarding the Sydney Sweeney thing, but it is the way that things become news now is so fucking stupid. Like certain things are news, right? Like we can all agree on this. A guy goes and he shoots up the fucking Blackstone building accidentally, or not the Blackstone building, but he's targeting the NFL. He's got CTE, and he accidentally shoots a bunch of people. Well, he didn't accidentally shoot them, but he shoots a bunch of people at the Blackstone building. You go, that's news, okay? That is news. The Sydney Sweeney thing is she puts out an ad. Nobody gives a shit. She's literally fucking Snoop Dogg, essentially. You go, here's a check. She will promote fucking anything if you give her enough money. And honestly, good for her for doing so, because her window is closing, okay? Trust me. Nobody's going to give a shit about Sydney Sweeney in 10 years from now. She's smart. Get all the money you can get. Milk this thing like those fucking milkers you got. Do it, all right? Because nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. And nobody's going to care, right? It's just how it is. But this was literally like, she puts out an ad for American Eagle. It's a jeans ad. Love a good Canadian tuxedo. As a Canadian, love a good Canadian tuxedo. Don't we all? But then some fucking fat chicks on Twitter or TikTok, are just like, she's a Nazi. And then the real news, at least what we thought was the real news, MSNBC. What is MSNBC doing scrolling TikTok all day? Is that how we get news? Is just MSNBC goes, some fat woman, purple-haired fat woman's mad on TikTok. I guess let's make this news. So anyways, I digress. Bobo McHugh says, call their Congresses for H.R. 38 national carry, please. Yes. Cane guns for all. I Come Buckets says, Ernie. Why don't you like Ernie? He says he sucks. I don't know. What's wrong with Ernie? Let the people decide. I don't like these negative Nancys over here, I Come Buckets. Do you, in fact, even come buckets? Might be drops. But anyways, so you guys know, AI, I'm a bit of a doomer. Self-professed AI doomer. And I obviously don't think it's all bad. But like I said, the scale of it is absolutely nothing we've ever seen before. And the job loss is not something I think people are ready for. And I know I talked about this before, but I feel like this should be a way bigger story than Sweeney's huge cans. And, I guess some might say, if big corporations just go and replace their workforce with AI, this will cut down the costs of things, which will then get passed on to consumers. Because we all know how much corporations love giving us money. I love it. These big corporations, how they love to share the wealth. And I guess it happened in consumer electronics, but this wasn't the type of thing like, we all know that a 60-inch TV is somehow $300 now. But I think that's more from competition. They're all forced to compete with one another, which drives down the price. Now, maybe this will happen with other things. I don't know. But even if things are cheaper, what if a huge part of the population is not only unemployed, but unemployable? And the reason I'm even talking about this again is because this Microsoft just released this paper. By the way, I asked Grok if technology ever made, I asked Grok, AI, I asked them, has technology ever made more jobs obsolete the way AI is about to do? I'm asking AI about the dangers of AI. Again, keep in mind, this answer is coming from AI. This is Grok's answer. No technology has made jobs obsolete at the scale and speed AI is projected to. The Industrial Revolution displaced weavers and artisans, replacing them with factory jobs. About 60% of manual labor roles shifted between 1800 and 1900. Mechanization in agriculture later reduced farm jobs from 40% of the U.S. workforce in 1900 to under 2% by 2000, but new sectors like manufacturing and services absorbed much of the labor. Computers and automation in the late 20th century eliminated some clerical and assembly line jobs, which estimates suggested 10 to 15% of routine tasks were automated by 2010. AI, however, targets a broader range. McKinsey projects 30% of current jobs could be automated by 2030, which I've referenced before, spanning white-collar roles like accounting, legal research, and even creative tasks. Unlike past shifts, AI's impact is faster and cross-sectoral, with less time for workers to retrain. While it'll create jobs, think AI maintenance or data labeling, the net loss could be unprecedented due to its versatility and rapid adoption. Historical transitions were slower, giving economies decades to adapt. AI's timeline is compressed, likely within a single generation. So this is AI telling us that we're fucked from AI. That's rich. But yes, so Microsoft just released a paper showing what jobs would be most and least affected. Bad news. If you're one of the 3 million customer service representatives, 1 million sales reps, 800,000 management analysts, or 800,000 market research analysts. Good news if you're one of the 1.3 million nurses with an aging and unhealthy population, the 800,000 truck and tractor operators, who I think a lot of truck drivers will be replaced, 800,000 maids or housekeepers, or 500,000 dishwashers. Although those last two professions, those numbers are probably grossly underreported due to illegal immigrants working those jobs, working under the table and whatnot. So there's probably a lot more than 800,000 maids. But anyways, if you're a maid or a dishwasher, you're good. you're great. Nothing to worry about, except for that you don't make much money. But basically, if you work with your hands, which I'm sure some of you do, you're good. Except for a large portion of these jobs are pretty low-paying, unskilled labor, which is not great. Nursing, probably the best job to get into right now, to be honest. I don't know if you guys saw Trump is making a whole stink right now. He fired the labor secretary chick because they had a jobs number on Friday, I think on Thursday, Friday. And basically they're like, yeah, we had to revise the jobs. We lost all these jobs and we're not really good at keeping track of all this stuff. But if you looked into it, it was mostly just like all the new job gains in the country mostly just come from healthcare. So essentially everybody's just getting old and dying. So they're like, yeah, it's just all. So anyways, if you're thinking about becoming a nurse, probably the best job to get into right now. Even the 400,000 hosts and hostesses. 400,000 hosts and hostesses. That's how many people are hosts and hostesses. Mostly hostesses. Likely to be replaced. I didn't know that. I thought that job was probably okay. But I guess not. And white-collar workers, way more affected than blue-collar workers, this is kind of the first time we've ever seen this, where it's flipped that way. It was always like we made efficiencies and all the blue-collar workers were like, sorry, we don't need you anymore. But now it's the opposite. And I guess tell me this, how will society generally feel if the blue-collar workers who do physical labor will now have to support all these useless white-collar workers who have zero practical skills at this point? You're like, oh, you're good at spreadsheets? Great. Nobody gives a shit. We don't need fucking spreadsheets. Phone lines are not open, everybody. Why are people calling in already? Phone lines will be open shortly. But surely everyone can't just get universal basic income. Like, that's essentially what we're saying. It's like, oh, we'll just give them universal basic income that offers a living wage. But if you do that, then why would anyone wash dishes? Unless they're not legally in the country and they're forced to. But we're kicking all those people out. So how is this exactly going to work? And I will say, I've seen some job replacement in the wild already. I went to see Naked Gun on the weekend at an AMC. Highly great movie, by the way. If you're thinking about seeing Naked Gun, go see Naked Gun. Hilarious. There's an element where you go, comedy movies are back, but then you're also like, no, they are not. So I hadn't been to a movie maybe 2 years in a theater. Probably around there. It's been a minute. I couldn't even tell you the last movie I saw. I think that Everything Everywhere All at Once piece of shit movie, most overrated movie, looked cool. I mean, it looked cool. First off, the place was empty. I went to an AMC Midtown Manhattan Saturday night, fucking ghost town. Now, maybe that's because there's no good movies out. I think there's a Superman movie. I think Fantastic Four is out, so there's movies out. Place was fucking empty, okay? Completely. But so, I don't know if every AMC is like this. You guys can tell me, because I'm sure you guys have been to the movies recently. Maybe you have an AMC by your house. But so, the place where you buy tickets now, nobody works there. It's just automated computer screens, kiosks. There's no people working there whatsoever. So they've just replaced all those jobs. Those jobs are gone. Now, I don't think that they've done this in every AMC, but this is probably a test for that, and that's gone. So nobody works the counter at an AMC anymore, okay? They still have a pimply-faced high school student checking your tickets, so that job is safe if you're 16. They had one of those. This is like Manhattan. This isn't like some small rural town, okay? This is Midtown Manhattan. One pimply-faced high school student who checks the tickets after you buy them from a machine. And then you go to the concession stand because you got to have some snacks at a movie. 2 people working there. Now, maybe that changes when they're busier. I don't know if they're ever busier. This was Saturday night. It was dead. It was literally dead. And again, Naked Gun, highly recommend. Awesome movie. As someone who's in the comedy industry, didn't make me feel good about what I was seeing from someone who's just likes comedy and wants comedy movies to return and would like to potentially participate in that. Did not make me feel good. Literally 10 people. This is the second night of this movie. It has 90-something% on Rotten Tomatoes, 10 people in the theater. Do people not like comedy anymore? Is that what it is? Am I fucking working a cotton ginny right now, and people are just like, yeah, that shit's over, man. Move on. Comedy movies are so cooked to the point where, you know, they had 25 minutes of ads, something crazy like that. They're now, AMC, they're doing these like limited releases of 40-Year-Old Virgin and Trainwreck, movies that are 20 and 10 years old, respectively. Because there's so few movies that are like, who the fuck is like, yeah, I'm going to go watch 40-Year-Old Virgin at the theater. Like, why? Why would you do that with 4 other weirdos? You're just going to, I'm going to go on a Saturday night and watch 40-Year-Old Virgin at the AMC with a bunch of fucking weird people. Like, that's what's going on in the world of comedy movies right now, is they're just like, yeah, we're going to, I guess, release Trainwreck again for a week. Is it? I honestly, people talk shit about these movies, these, you know, studios. They're like, why is all Marvel movies, these $200 million? At least if you go see one of those movies, there's something that you benefit from the theater experience. You're like, yeah, this is better watched on a big screen and these crazy sound systems. Comedy movies are just like, I don't know what, I could just be watching this at home. I mean, literally 2 tickets to Naked Gun, some snacks, $75. And AMC has these great, like, lazy boy reclining seats now, really comfortable, kick up your feet. But what's this, like, to simulate my living room? I have a living room. I don't need to pay $75 to go do this. And I still actually hold out hope that theatrical comedies will come back. But then I'm also just like, it might just not make any sense anymore. Legitimately. It's just like, might make zero sense. Like, maybe there's something about you're in a packed theater and everybody's laughing at the same time. Kind of like if you're at a comedy club and you go, that's fun. That you can't replace. But like, Naked Gun cost $42 million to make. Probably another 20 to 40 million in advertising. It's like, it's probably not even going to break even. Even if it does great, it's still not going to break even. And then 47 million people watched Happy Gilmore 2 on Netflix. So I think theatrical comedies are just dead. I mean, I know that they've been dead for a decade, but I definitely thought it was like a cultural thing where it was just like the woke shit or whatever. And you're like, yeah, they're just, people don't want to take risks, but I think it just might be over, which is a real bummer. As much as I was enjoying the movie, I was kind of just bummed out by this whole thing. So there you go. I Come Buckets. I Come Drop says, I watched 40-Year-Old Virgin on this podcast. Dylan says, that's literally your podcast, Danny. What is? Dylan Farnham says, how about you spread the sheets on my bed, Mrs. Accountant, now working as my new bang maid? I mean, they might have to be your bang maid, to be honest. And I Come Drop says, I swear to God, if you say I Come Drops again, well, I did it. And I'll say it again. It is a weird one. I will say that. It is a weird one. Okay, we're going to open the phone lines a little bit. I wanted to talk about this Israel-Palestine thing for a minute, because this is... I don't talk about it a lot. It's getting so stupid. Like, I honestly, I used to think, like, before this war, just in the past, in my life, there was always a flare-up, you know? Like, Israel, there'd be, like, a thing. It's like, you know, it's these two sides. They literally hate each other. It is the definition of, like, this religious blood feud. It's all predicated on religion, by the way, this war. The entire thing. Obviously, the Israelis are like, this is our land. It says so in the Bible. The fucking Palestinians are just like, this is our land, blah, blah, blah. You know, we have these historical sites, the Dome of the Rock, all that bullshit. But it's becoming more and more apparent, and I've always thought this, and then I was like, maybe this is different this time, but I don't think it is. This is literally a conflict that will never end in any of our lifetimes. Regardless of what happens for this particular little flare-up, if you can call it, never going to end. Like, Russia and Ukraine, at least, is not a religious war. It's just a dispute over territory. It's like a good old-fashioned war. It's like real Risk, like the board game. But it'll naturally come to an end at some point. At least there's like an end point where you go, like, you know, we're just done with this. Eventually there's some attrition and they just kind of give up. It's like, obviously Russia's not going to get all of Ukraine. Ukraine's is gonna concede some land. Now, I guess with the Israel-Palestine thing, if Israel just legitimately kicks everybody out of Gaza, takes all the land, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean, they've destroyed it. You see the pictures and you're like, man, this would make a great level on Call of Duty. But they have destroyed it. But the world is really very much like, we're not letting this happen. So I'm going to assume that the Gazans stay there and rebuild. At which point you're like, this is never going to end. A bunch of countries, Canada, France, a bunch of other countries, they just go, they don't like what's going on in Gaza, which some bad shit's going on. I'm not going to lie. You have all these humanitarian things, and literally I can't believe, like, I read the news, I see all this stuff on Twitter, and you're like, you can't even believe anything anymore, because you see one thing, you're like, that's fake. You're like, this is fake. You're like, the waters are so muddied with all this shit. We're like, it's so hard to know what's going on. Like, you talk to one guy and he's like, this is the worst humanitarian crisis I've ever seen. They're not letting people in. There's a guy on Tucker Carlson. Then you see like this British dude who was like in the military. He's like, I'm here. It's all Hamas's fault. Hard to know what's going on, right? And like I've said, we should really just let the mud people duke it out. We should not get involved. Let the mud people duke it out. Right? Which a lot of the America First, they're like, this is all we want. We just let them duke it out. Right? But anyways, a bunch of countries that go in there were like, we're recognizing Palestine as a state, which I assume is meant to put pressure on Israel to end the war. What another country recognizing Palestine as a state even does, I have no idea. Like, I have no clue. Is that like when you just tell a trans chick, you go, you're a woman? Is that what that is? You go, you're a woman? They go, no, they're not. You go, well, I recognize them as one. You go, okay, that doesn't change anything. But I recognize them. You go, okay. Cool. And again, no doubt, there is a humanitarian crisis there, regardless of who you feel is to blame. But these countries that are saying they're like, Canada's like, yeah, we're going to recognize Palestine as a state. All they need to do, all this is predicated on, is just Hamas disarms and gives up all their power, which is, again, never going to happen. You think that's what's going to happen? Is Hamas is going to be like, oh, okay, we'll just fucking ride off into the sun and give up all our weapons. It's like never going to happen. What is the point of this exercise? Is it just literally just to fucking talk into a microphone? Hamas is like, yeah, we'll wrap this war up just as long as we can have Jerusalem back. Never happening. You're just like, you think you're getting Jerusalem? Crazy. And then everybody's like, crying like, and I will say this, Hamas, the Arabs, all that shit, they nailed this war. Like they've won this war from a PR standpoint. Not even close. They have destroyed the Jews. You think that everybody's just like, I know there's a lot of people here who are just like, yeah, the Jews are, they control all the media. Well, they're not doing a fucking great job with this one, are they? With all the news and the media? No, they are not, because the media is decidedly not on their side. Right? But everybody's crying about, starving babies. And then for some reason, 2 days ago or something, Hamas releases a video of a hostage being a starving hostage digging his own grave. You're like, why do that? What benefit is that for? Like, you guys were doing so great. Everyone was like, they're starving the babies. They're shooting the babies in the heads. And then Hamas is just like, here's a hostage we've starved him, and now he has to dig his own grave. And go, why? Why release that? It's literally like neither side wants this shit to end ever. Anyways, let the mud people duke it out. That's all I'm going to say. All right, the phone lines are open, everybody. 1-888-949-2969. We got Gerard Perry, the dog, answering the calls. Be patient with him. He's just figuring this stuff out. So there is a learning curve. Like and subscribe to the channel, everybody. If you're an audio listener, make sure to follow the podcast wherever you listen, Spotify, Podbean, Apple, I don't know. And also share it on Twitter, Instagram, tell a friend. Otherwise, I'm going to quit doing this show and kill myself. Is that what you guys want? That's what I'm going to do. That is literally what I might do. And if you enjoy the show, tell a friend. Again, just tell a fucking friend. I don't know why the numbers for the show are so bad. Everybody in the comments goes, the show's great. I think YouTube has it out for me. I don't know. And if you want to support the show, you can do so. Sign up for patreon.com/lowvaluemail. MAIL. It's $5 a month. And your $5 will go to me maybe keeping the show going, maybe me not killing myself. I don't know. And also, we're going to do a super chat goal if we hit the super chat goal. Oh, I forgot to do the super chat goal. Whoops. Oopsie. I had a lot going on, okay? I'll do it now, and I'll count the other ones. Don't worry. I'll count the other ones to the total, so don't worry. It's not starting from now. But if we hit the super chat goal, I'll do an extra 30 minutes of open lines. And all right, I started the goal. Don't worry. I'll count all the other ones towards it. God, I suck at this. And of course, if we hit 500 patrons, when we hit 500 patrons, probably in the year 2029, maybe, I'll give away $500, which in today's money is like $50. So I guess that is what it is. All right. Let's go to the phone lines here. Oh, Patrick, are you there? I don't know why that was unmuted already.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Very well. How are you?
Doing well. Did you see? I saw a Twitter post that apparently Trump is saying that he's going to withhold the federal help, like FEMA help to.
That's crazy. Yeah, I just saw that before the. Yeah. Basically, if what? So if any state boycotts an Israeli company, then they're not going to get disaster
That's what
relief?
I saw. Yeah. Yeah. Insane.
I mean, it's crazy. It's literally insane. That's the thing is, I always go back and forth with this, Jewish influence stuff where you're just like, everybody's like, they control the media. They're like, well, they're doing a real shitty job with that. But then you're like, to say that you're going to,
they're just being really heavy handed right now, I think.
Yeah. So you're like, yeah, if, I mean, this one is literally, it's insane. It is. You're like, yeah. So if the state of Tennessee or whatever is like, are there any states that are currently boycotting Israel? Like, is there an entire state?
I haven't heard of that.
Again, I mean, everybody says
odd.
this. Everybody says this, and it's totally fair. Where you're like, if they did this with any other state, any other country, you'd be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, if they were like, hey, if anybody wants to, China at least is like an enemy of the United States, somewhat. Exactly. You're like, imagine they just did. You go, we're boycotting France. We're boycotting French companies, and you go, okay, well then you're not getting disaster relief. I mean, it certainly doesn't help, but honestly, on the political level, there's different levels to this stuff. On the political level, I really don't think they care, what people think. In terms of people are going to think that Israelis have undue influence. And you're just like, I don't think they care what people think about this shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it is, it is fucking crazy. I certainly agree. For a country that I mean, I guess, why would they care if people want to boycott an enemy nation? But, yeah, it is odd for sure. I don't know. What do you think about it? I imagine something similar.
I mean, yeah, it's insane. It is. Yeah, like you were saying, I haven't heard of anyone, or at least to a large vocal group saying they're boycotting Israeli businesses or whatever. It just seems out of nowhere. And
okay, so this is from the Department of Homeland Security's DHS Gov Twitter page from 2 hours ago. Homeland Security says there is no FEMA requirement tied to Israel in any current NOFO. I don't know what NOFO is. No states have lost funding and no new conditions have been imposed. FEMA grants remain governed by existing line policy and not political litmus tests. DHS will enforce all anti-discrimination laws and policies, including as it relates to the BDS movement, which is expressly grounded in anti-Semitism. Those who engage in racial discrimination should not receive a single dollar of federal funding. And there's a proposed community note. The DHS website still includes boycotts of Israel as a definition of discrimination. So essentially they're saying you can't discriminate against anybody to receive FEMA monies. And the problem is that it's just like the two things are intertwined, which they should not be, but they're literally like, there's people who are not Jewish who live in Israel. So then to say that you're protesting Israel over, and then you're like, that's anti-Semitism. You're like, but Israel is constantly just like, but we're not only Jews. Like, obviously they're a majority Jewish country, but they're like, we're not, then they are a Jewish nation, but they're like, we're not only Jews. So I don't know. I mean, again, this administration has been doing some wacky ass shit. Dude, they want to do a thing now, which I actually kind of agree with, but I don't know how it works in principle, where if you're from a country that has a lot of people overstaying visas, if you travel to the United States, you have to basically just give up to $15,000 bond to when you enter the country to just guarantee that you'll leave, essentially. Where you're like, who the fuck is going to give a $15,000 temporary loan to the United States government to come visit here? Now, I guess some people are like, if you work here, you're like, maybe your business will do that. But like, so literally every person from that country has just essentially been excluded from visiting here. Yeah, but this Israel thing is insane. I agree. I don't know the exact veracity of it, but yeah, I mean, Alex Jones just tweeted, but it's the same thing. How in the last administration, how they literally were like, if you had house signs, basically like FEMA was like passing over people who had Trump house like signs on their yards. You're like, how's this? I mean, this is even worse because you're like, again, this is a foreign country.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyways, that's
Free America.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently this is from the Quartering from 35 minutes ago. He says they just updated their website. It says discriminatory prohibited boycott means refusing to deal, cutting commercial relations or otherwise limited commercial relations, specifically with Israeli companies or with companies doing business in or with Israel or authorized by license or by or organized under the laws of Israel to do business. I mean, you should be able to do business with whoever you want. Now, I guess if like some state is like, yo, we need this thing, and they're like, on principle, we're not buying it from Israel. But again, I don't know. They should be able to do that. I guess it's different on a state level. Like, I don't think any person, I mean, it's even worse because you're like, if you're a person and you're like, yeah, I love Israel. And they're like, yeah, but my state doesn't like Israel. So your house just got hit by a fucking hurricane and they're just telling you to kick rocks, essentially. You're like, sorry. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no clue what's going on with this. Anything else there, Patrick?
No, that was it.
Cool. Good talking to you. All right. I don't... let's check in on Gerard. Because we have... The phone lines are open, everybody. 1-888-949-2969. We don't have any more calls at the moment. I don't know if Gerard's having a little issue with this because I saw some people call in, but not getting through. Okay. Maybe you guys just don't want to call in. Maybe that's what it is. We have a super chat from Nigel Smith. Oh, some of them went to voicemail. If you're trying to get through, we're still figuring this out, but if you go to voicemail, call back, but because hold on, let me just text him. All right, we got some. Gerard's figuring it out, everybody. Give him a break. It's not easy on his first day. Yeah, Nigel says, good morning from Scotland. Enjoyed you and Ryan in London a long time ago now. Keep up the good work. That was a long time ago now. It really was. It really was a long time ago now. As I mentioned, phone lines are open, 1-888-949-2969. Now we have all these calls pouring in. So I guess we just got to wait to get to them. All right, here we go. We got D Hockey. And please unmute yourself when I request it. The joys of live production. Oh man, this is good stuff right here. Shout out to Gerard, guys. This is actually kind of hard. This is fucking answering all these calls coming in at once. It's kind of stressful, and we don't really have a great system to do it. All right, well, we have a caller, but he's not unmuting himself, so I think Gerard's a little overwhelmed with all the calls coming in. Gerard, if you're listening, you got to put him on hold before you send him in a voicemail, and then just throw him in the queue. All right, we might have to do a little. Maxime says, saw you in Belgium. It was great. Belgium's fucking cool as shit. I like Belgium. It is as advertised, though. So I have callers here, but they're not. Please unmute yourself. For the love of God. Unmute yourself. I'm not replacing Gerard. I can never Insidious. I don't know. No, I'm not replacing Gerard. No, Gerard's good shit. It's just he's figuring this all out. We are figuring this all out. It is a little stressful. But again, we have a caller on. Amazing Disgrace says no question or comment, just support. Thank you. All right, let's try and take another call here. Because whoever was calling in just cannot unmute themselves for some reason. I don't know why. I feel like it'd be easy. Frank!
Hello.
Bailing me out, Frank. Thank you. Some people can't handle the unmute part.
It's a difficult thing. I got 3 degrees in rocket science, so
okay.
I was able to do it.
Cool. What's up, Frank?
All right. So, okay. So I hear some crazy shit about the job market. Me, I'm always skipping jobs left and right. It's just like a part of my profession. I would like to stay in the job I'm at until retirement, but at the same time, I'm like, there's always a chance that something will happen or whatever. Some budgets will drop, and they'll be like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
But I was looking at some videos, and they're just like, people have been unemployed for like a couple of years now. And I actually know somebody too. I actually know in my last job, they laid off a lot of people. I was one of them. And they just laid off, well, they didn't just, like a year ago, they laid off this girl. She must have like a doctorate, well, almost a doctorate, a master's degree in like research and development. She can't find anything. She's just like writing her own like theses and like posting them on LinkedIn. And I'm like saying to myself, if this girl's like can't find a job, like I'm going back to like working at like KB Toys or something if I lose this one.
I mean, again, there's all like, what does she do something that's valuable, or is she has this like just kind of theoretical, like just tons of degrees?
I guess she's like a high-ish level research and development for like medical devices.
Yeah,
so
that seems useful. Yeah. That seems
exactly.
That seems pretty useful, and it's not great. I can't imagine. Like, my question is like what did they replace her job with? Like, why did it? Like, do you have any thoughts?
What happened was here. I'll expose. What happened was that this company called ChemBio was run by people who were more academic than business sense. Okay. And they ran the company right into the ground because they only sold their medical devices to like third world countries when they were getting these, when the government was paying for them. So they would send.
So the gravy train ended.
Exactly. The gravy train ended, but the stupidity of the whole entire thing is that they never registered their products in the United States, which they were located. So like that whole entire USA market was just completely like, oh yeah, we have a manufacturing facility here, but we're not going to sell to the USA. We're going to sell to like Nigeria, and the UNICEF or the EU is going to pay for it. And that's great when you have like millions of dollars of contracts. But when those contracts fizzle out, what are you going to do? I mean, I don't know who's running these companies. I mean, remember when I called into the bathhouse and I told you that scheme with the recruiters?
With the recruiter, yeah. Yeah, essentially for people that don't know, there's like a big recruiting scheme where recruiting companies will essentially be like, just give, what was it, a third of your annual salary and an upfront fee, and then they just get you some cushy job where you do nothing?
Yeah, something like that. They put you in like a high level position where all you do is just go to meetings over and over again and collect like $175,000, $200,000 a year.
I mean, there was nothing more illuminating, and that could likely apply to every industry or like a lot of industries, at least in terms of like white collar jobs, than when Twitter just fired 2/3 of their staff and everything ran exactly the same. And
yeah,
like,
I mean, look, a lot of tech workers are being fired a lot too. I mean, a lot of those women that are just like going to adult daycares and like getting like a coffee and eating lunch and going to one meeting and then going back home and making like $125,000 a year. They're all getting canned right now because I guess AI. So like I said, I don't know what's going on with the job market. I mean,
it's not good. I mean, it's not good. And you're like, the thing is like those people getting canned. It's like, it's not going to be easy to go find a new job, especially doing the same. Like if you were like kind of not scraping by, but you're kind of coasting, and then AI remove your job, you're just like, what are you going to go do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for like people out there that are actually looking or about to run out of unemployment. Just do anything. It doesn't matter. I mean, like there was a time when I got laid off during the flash crash of 2008 to 2010. Exactly in 2010, I got laid off, and the only place that would hire me was valeting cars.
Yeah,
I got out of university. I had my first real job for 3 years, and then I got laid off, and then. Nobody for a year I was on extended unemployment because Obama extended it, and then the only thing that I could find after that was valeting cars at a dealership. And you just have to suck it up and do it. Just suck it up and do it. Flip some burgers, hum some boxes, on a conveyor belt. I mean, just find anything and just do it. Me, I want to like actually get back into doing extra work in movies. But for some reason, like there's like nothing here on Long Island, and there's really nothing in New York right now. I was in the movie The Irishman a couple of times, and I was wondering if I could just keep that going, just for some extra dough.
Yeah, extra work is fucking pretty easy. It's mostly just standing around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's not bad. But yeah, no, I mean, dude, the movie industry is so fucking cooked, man. It is.
It's done. It's done. But did you see the new Superman or no?
No, I'm not really like, I'm trying to think the last like superhero. I mean, I've never been in really like the superhero movies, to be honest. Some of them are okay.
I'm wondering if I should go and see it or not, but
go see Naked Gun. Honestly, Naked Gun was fucking awesome. There's no point of seeing it in a theater, but it was really good.
All right, I'll check it out. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, later, Frank, everybody. All right, let's see if we can get this guy to unmute himself. Phone lines are open, 1-888-949-2969. And we got our guest joining us. No, we lost that caller. He left instead of unmuting himself. Absolutely lovely stuff. Jordan says, for Gerald, Danny can be demanding, but he means well. I'm not really that demanding, to be honest. If you've ever worked with me, you'll know that I'm really not very demanding at all. All right, let's see if I can take a call here. I'll just have to do this. Hello. Oh. Hello. Are you there? No. 1 second here. Ironing out the kinks, everybody. Oh, there we go. We got somebody. Hello.
Can you
You're
hear
on
me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're on Low Value Mail.
Hey, how's it going, Danny?
Good. How are you?
Been a long-time fan since your early days. Found you through Low Value Mail. Love your content. My
Cool,
favorite
thanks,
Jew
bro.
I've ever met in my whole entire world.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm
High
Canadian
praise.
also.
Oh, yeah. Where from?
Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia, out east.
Yeah, the worst part of Canada in general.
I mean, some people seem to like Nova Scotia. I've actually sadly I've never been out
people
east.
love to come to Nova Scotia.
Yes.
And I lived in Halifax for a while, but a lot of I'm not even going to go on. A lot of the foreigners come here because it's easier to get citizenship faster.
I know. Basically, the rules are with Canada is they're like, if you're willing to go to places nobody wants to live, they'll like.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, like if you go to Toronto, they're like, we don't really need more people in Toronto.
Yeah. And even to me, it's like I look at Toronto the same way as I look at New York. It's so foreign to me. I'm like, whoa, Halifax to me, big city.
Yeah. I mean, it's very foreign now. How are things in Canada?
They're so-so. They're whatever. They could be worse. They could be better. The price of food goes up constantly. I'm not a big fan of Mark Carney, but I'm also not a big fan of Pierre Poilievre. I think they're both one and the same.
Sure. I mean, Mark Carney is kind of
really...
a bit like, he's not as like, he has like some liberal, like socially stuff, but like fiscally, he's not that liberal.
Listen, if I was the Liberal Party of Canada, Mark Carney is the better option than Justin Trudeau ever was. Mark Carney, like everything Mark Carney is what they wanted Justin Trudeau to be. Where Justin Trudeau just kind of was a little bit of a fuckboy. His most famous Canadian trick is falling down a flight of steps.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's smashing Katy Perry, so he's doing all right.
And that's the thing. The fact that right now he's like, I'm just gonna go out and do whatever I want right now. I'm single. I can't it's hard even to be mad at him for that. But yeah, I generally called in about the movie question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Movies and theaters.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you on this statement. But I think in general, since COVID and even before COVID, like going to movies, like literally being in a theater has become something that's like no one wants to do. And not even just, I think, because like the noise, it's obviously the overpriced food.
Yeah.
The bullshit. But even before COVID, all the theaters were trying to implement Supit-like motion features where your seat would vibrate.
Yeah, your seat would rumble. There was like a thing where like some of the IMAX would like spray water on you or something, or like mist or something.
Yeah, they literally spit on you like a Disney ride.
Yeah.
And it's like no one wanted that. No one asked for that.
Yeah, the problem is you're trying to get people to like leave their house and like, if it's a family of four, it's like drop, maybe $150 to go see a movie when they're like, we can just watch this movie in our fucking living room.
We
don't
can
have to leave the house.
Stream this because even if we don't go to the movie, it's going to be out now in a month or two compared to like a DVD release would be a year later. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, they still have this giant industry that they're trying to save, so they got to do something. But
and I do think, honest to God, I actually think that they do actually have a better chance now than ever to save it because everyone's sick and tired of streaming services. And we'd rather go to, like, we're getting to a point where, hey, maybe let's go back to a movie.
I mean, I definitely have like a nostalgia around the idea of like going to a movie theater. Like, I was kind of like, this is, I haven't been to a movie theater in a while, and there still like holds some kind of weight to do it. But I just like I went and I'm like, I don't know, there's nobody in the theater. I'm like, all they're doing is recreating my fucking living room. Essentially at this point.
Yeah, no, listen, I 100% agree with you on that intent because that's my natural thought process. But I'm like, I wonder what other people do. Like, listen, all my movie experiences, I personally, I don't like to go to a movie at all. Like when I go and see a movie at a theater, it's to go with my friends, you know,
Right.
friends, family. It's a fun thing. If I want to watch a movie I really, really like, once I can download it in a high enough quality or watch it on a streaming service, I'd rather watch it personally.
Yeah.
Because no matter what movie you go to, what theater you go to, there's going to be someone yapping or talking or whatever. And even the negative of the fact that, you know, you went to Naked Gun and the theater's empty, well, to me, that's kind of a positive.
I mean,
Even though
I'm not even
obviously-
saying it's like a negative so much as I'm just like, I just, you know, it just seems like it's kind
seeing
of
the end result.
Yeah, you're just like, this is just how it's going to be. And then eventually, like, you know, like the movie theater I went to is sitting on a piece of land that's probably worth $25 million, right? Like, it's like Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah,
And they're
literally,
having that
they could change it
discussion.
anything else.
They are having that discussion every week, probably, which is like, when do we pack it in and just sell this to a developer? Like, they must have that conversation constantly where they're just like, this business is not viable. It just doesn't make any fucking sense to do this.
Yeah,
and
literally.
at some point,
I think. No, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. I'm just saying, at some point, they're just going to pack it in and just be like, yeah, this entire business model makes zero sense. Like, it is cool. Like, if I was into like Marvel movies, I'm like, I'm sure that is a better experience than watching in your living room to go see like some, you know, high production, crazy technical.
Well, it's
know,
like, I guess it's no different than the same people that go and visit, what is it, the dome or the orb or whatever the thing is, that the massive structure.
What, the Sphere?
The Sphere, yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been to the Sphere.
Like,
The Sphere is fucking awesome.
Yeah. And listen, I imagine there's so many experiences that are great there. And listen, I saw the Wizard of Oz I saw their visual display of it, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to see that. But I've seen other ones where I'm like, this would be so cool to see this in this complete like 3-dimensional sphere.
Yeah,
like
I mean, I highly recommend.
That IMAX tried to say that it was going to be.
Oh, it's way crazier than that. But the thing is like I went to a concert and it's like 2 tickets were fucking $1,000.
Yeah, that is true.
So you're like, and you got to go to Vegas, and you're like, how many times? You know, this is like, I'm not saying I'm never going back,
even
but
here we'll have a show in Halifax, and how much they'll charge for like ticket prices, even though it's lower than the average. But it's like, this is insane compared to anyone else would ever pay for any live show in Halifax.
Yeah, of course, and that's Halifax. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling great about the movie industry. I gotta let you go though, man. But thank you for calling in. Appreciate
Hey, thank
it.
you. Yeah, thank you. Great. Keep up the good work. Love the show. Love both of the shows. It's
Hell yeah.
awesome.
Thanks, Doc.
All right, talk to you.
All right, let's take another call here. Okay. We have Jones. Jones, are you there? I don't know if it's Jones.
I went to see Superman yesterday.
Any good? I've heard it's good.
It's not that good.
Oh.
It's about what you would expect. The Indians don't like it.
The Indians don't like the native Indians don't like it?
No, the Indian subcontinent. There was a review from like the Indian Express reviewer critic, and he said it was racist.
How's it racist? That might actually get me to go watch it.
Because it did the depiction of third world countries. Because
it makes third world countries look like shitholes?
Yeah, Moravia versus Darnpur. Darnpur is
it sounds
India / Ukraine / Palestine.
It's like an amalgamation of all these places? But these places are shitholes. I mean, obviously India has parts to it that are like very affluent, but
yeah, but the Indians don't want you to point that out, though. Obviously, they have an interest in.
All right, well then fix it. I don't know.
You having a positive opinion.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, India's beefing with America right now over all these tariffs and shit, so they're getting it from every angle, I guess. But
speaking of economics.
Yeah.
You have an economics background, right?
I do.
Got a degree?
I do.
Do you think Trump should fire Jerome Powell?
He can't. I mean, you're not allowed to, the Federal Reserve is an independent governing body. It's like he's trying to fire him right now over like the renovation, basically because he's renovating the Fed, like the building. And he's basically like, he's trying to find any way that he can fire him because part of his entire tariff plan requires the interest rates to go down so that when they service the debt, they're paying Like the United States pays $3 billion a day in interest right now. And that could be a lot less if the interest rate comes down. It's like, you're talking, what is that, $1 trillion a year, I guess? Like it's an obscene amount of money. And the only way that they can lower that is by the Fed cutting rates. And Jerome Powell's just like refuses, even though, there seems to be data points that, that's the thing is the Federal Reserve has a dual mandate. It's basically inflation and employment. That's the only things that they're there to just keep inflation and employment within like a range. And he's just like, yeah, I'm worried that if I cut rates, like inflation will go up. And I guess he's saying the labor market's not that bad. So even though that revision seems to say otherwise, so he's essentially being like, yeah, that's my dual mandate and I'm not doing it. And he's a real thorn in the side, but you can't fire him. You can try and force him out. You can fire him, I guess, over this renovation.
I guess, should he try and force him out? Like what?
I mean, he is. All he does is talk shit about him.
Yeah, but a good idea or a bad idea, though?
That's a hard one to know, to be honest. I mean, I will say that a lot of the tariff stuff has been working out so far to a degree. Now, talking to, was it Mr. Pants who calls in?
I know it's the thing with the tariffs is all the companies have some stuff stocked up, so the worst.
Well, they have stuff stocked up, and then, but it's from what it sounds like is with Mr. Pants or whatever. He's this guy who owns a coffee shop who he calls in from time to time, and I was talking with him a couple of weeks ago. He's like, we're just eating the costs here. He's like, there's a huge increase in all our inputs, and we're just eating them because, if you're a business, you're probably you don't want to just pass along these new costs immediately, which makes sense. But if they eventually do get, if eventually these businesses are like, yeah, we can't just eat all these costs indefinitely, then maybe you will see some inflation. Maybe that's what Powell's worried about is he's like, this is this is temporary. This is still early. And maybe they do get passed on. And then, then you see all this inflation and I don't know. It's it's kind of, the problem is it's never really been done. So you can't really go look oh, we can see how this worked before and kind of model it out. So maybe Powell is just being extra cautious, but sounds like there's probably a rate cut on the horizon. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. Maybe he fires them and he cuts rates and it's great. I mean, it doesn't. Here's the thing is America cuts their debt and you go, that's great. You go, but what do they do with that? If they just go spend a bunch of money on bullshit, then you go, what was the point of that?
Well,
so,
I'm for raising interest rates substantially.
You want to raise interest rates?
Yeah, because even at the quote-unquote high interest rates for what we have now with a central bank, historically,
very
interest
low.
Rates were always way lower.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, or way higher historically.
Yes.
Yeah. So you want to, yeah.
So
I mean, there's a lot of consequences for that, though.
Yeah, I mean,
it's businesses stop expanding, spending money, homeowners are poor. It's, you raise interest rates a quarter point. It's it has a lot of consequences to that. You want to do it if the economy is overheating, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. I mean, a rate hike, I think, is not even on the table right now. That would be.
Well, no, definitely not. Because the whole point of having a central bank is, like you said, to lower rates so you can spend more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their whole thing is just inflation and employment. But it is nice to, I guess, for them to be able to help you out one way or another. But, yeah, that's definitely a rate hike is not in the cards. I got to let you go, though, man. We got to get to our guest.
Okay.
Good talking to you, though. All right. We are going to go to our guest. We will be back very shortly. Sit tight. Don't go nowhere. All right, and we're back, everybody. Hold on, let me just frame this up here. There we go. Joining me today, we have Ernie LaBrecque. How's it going, Ernie?
Very, very good.
Very well. So you host or co-host the podcast Virginia is for Conspiracy Lovers.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, covering, so I assume you live, are you from Virginia? You live in Virginia?
Born and raised, yes,
sir.
Born
and raised. Okay, so I mean, I didn't know we were talking about it off the air here, that there's, because we were talking about the Federal Reserve, and you were saying, what was it, Woodrow Wilson?
Woodrow Wilson is a Virginian, and signed the Federal Reserve Act in I think 1917. He's just one of the many deep state gnarly politicians that come from Virginia. It was just kind of funny. Your last caller was talking about that. Virginia is one of those places that really there's no other state kind of like it being a Commonwealth, and then having the sort of wide array of everything, conspiracy and hidden history, and all rolled into one place. It's the oldest state in the country. It's, we've got more presidents than anybody, more assassins. So we've got, we claim John Wilkes Booth and Hinckley. I'm forgetting a couple other ones. We've got
the guy who shot Reagan.
Yeah,
man, I can't. Yeah, you know what? So I follow him on Twitter. I wanted to get him on this show actually, but he never responds to my messages.
I doubt he will, dude. I'm pretty sure he's controlled. I've actually been in.
Have you been to any of his concerts?
No, but I've been inside his parents' house.
Oh, really? Because, dude, I find it so funny So he's trying to be like, I'm just an artist now, and he's like a musician.
Yeah.
And he'll always put up these like cat paintings for sale on eBay. And then literally, I think people go and just like bid on them, but then nobody ever buys them actually. Like,
Nobody buys them?
Well, they're just trying to fuck with him. So they'll like...
Yeah, but to have a Hinckley
I know.
cat painting? I mean, that's like...
Yeah, they're like
Gacy, you know.
I know. I think they're like $600 or $800 or something. Nothing.
That's
like,
not
it's not
bad.
Like, yeah, it's not crazy, but like I guess there's like this just thing on the internet where people just like fucking with him. And,
I can see that.
And then he always will be like, I have a concert, and it'll always be in somewhere in Virginia because I guess that's where he lives now. And the concerts always get canceled too. Like he'll always be like, I'm doing a show at like a coffee house. And I don't know how it works if he's trying to like he doesn't tell the coffee house that he's John Hinckley.
Well, so he's originally, I think that family is originally from Texas, and that's where they have their ties to the Bushes. But
the Hinckley family has ties to the Bushes? What's the ties?
Well, the night before Reagan was shot, one of the Bush brothers was eating dinner with the Hinckley family.
Really?
Yeah, because the Bushes are from Texas, oil people. The elder Hinckley, the father, worked in big oil. Yeah, they were definitely. I'm convinced that Hinckley was sort of a Sirhan situation.
Like an MK Ultra kind of deal?
Yeah, 100%. Hinckley also was obsessed with Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. He also, when he was caught, I might be mixing up my assassins, but I'm pretty positive that he's the one who, no, that I am getting that mixed up. I believe he had a Catcher in the Rye on him or referred to it in some way. I was thinking of Lennon's killer, but yeah, and you think about who had the most to gain from Reagan getting clipped, and that's George Bush, his vice president.
Sure.
Ex-CIA director, now vice president. Literally, one of his sons was eating dinner with the Hinckleys the night before. Yeah, I think he was. I think he was controlled in some way.
That's a weird little tie-in. So this is a stupid question. How many states are commonwealths in the United States? Pennsylvania?
I want to say like 7, but it might be 9. It might just be like.
And what exactly does that mean? I'm Canadian.
Don't ask me, dude. I've lived in one my whole life. I'm not.
I always wonder. I've literally ever since I've lived
I'm
here.
not sure.
And you're like, yeah, the Commonwealth of Virginia, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and you go. What?
I'm sure it has.
Like I understand
different...
that's like Canada is like a Commonwealth country.
Yeah.
Like it has ties to the crown, but
I only know that we're different because we are a Commonwealth, and when people bitch about Virginia in it being like having weirder laws or something like that, people always go, oh yeah, it's Commonwealth. I don't exactly know what that means. I've lived here my whole life. I'm sure it'd be easy enough for me I should probably look into that and find out why. But yeah, I lived here, and I've lived all over, but Pennsylvania I lived in Pittsburgh for a number of years. I went to culinary school there, and it was similar, I guess, to
like
Virginia.
what are the differences in laws in a Commonwealth?
Well, and they've adopted these laws like elsewhere, but one thing just being in the restaurant industry and whatnot, like we're not allowed to have bars. You can't just have a bar. It has to be a restaurant that sells alcohol. And I believe that's one of the Commonwealth things.
Virginia and Pennsylvania don't have bars?
So Pennsylvania has been sort of grandfathered in, and yes, like they have to serve food at their bars. Now, Pittsburgh in particular, they've got more bars per capita than any city in the country. It's absolutely insane. Like every building is a bar. Every old church is now a bar. Like just houses in the middle of neighborhoods are bars. And some squeak by with just like a rack of like,
like some popcorn and stuff.
Yeah. But here in Virginia, it's not like that at all. Like you have to prove yearly your I just sold I had 2 restaurants and we served alcohol at both of them, and we just sold them. But yeah, you have to prove that you sell a certain percentage of food in comparison to alcohol every year.
Interesting. Just don't want a bunch of drunks running around?
I guess. I mean, Virginia is very overlordy. You know what I mean? Like, you living here, it's beautiful. I love the state of Virginia.
Yeah, it's very nice.
It is, you do constantly feel kind of the boot of the government. It's so you're so close to. Well, I mean, we have more military bases other than in the country. We're second to California. We have more CIA personnel than any state. We have more FBI. We have also the headquarters of the FBI and the CIA here. We have.
And what's the reason? Just because it's so close to DC?
To begin with, it's also kind of the birthplace of the country. It's weird growing up here because everybody you don't meet as many people like me who were born and raised here. It's a lot of come here's, a lot of government workers, and depending where you are, like central to the eastern part of the state, it's much more of that. And then once you get out west in the mountains and whatnot, it gets a little less. But then the government facilities out there in the west and in the northwest, they become creepier and more, like the continuity of government underground bunker is in Virginia.
What is that?
So there's a policy, a system set in place in the U.S. government where it's called continuity of government, and there's this like set of guidelines and procedures to happen. So
is that like that show Designated Survivor?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's depicting continuity.
The show was
of government.
sick for the first 2 seasons, and then got really weird.
Yeah, they so there's an underground bunker, and that's where I believe that's where Cheney was during 9/11.
Oh, okay.
Like they got him there really, really quick. And there's certain government positions that they get there really quickly. If the the shit hits the fan, so to speak, different departments know which people.
I guess it's because it's rural, but it's also near DC, so it's like.
And it's underground. It's underneath a mountain. Yeah. It's
so what
very
are
radish.
What are like the kind of weird conspiracies from Virginia?
So most of my personal research deals with hidden history, and that's sort of a big question. But my overarching thesis is that this country was created as a breakaway civilization for the Stuart dynasty, the Scottish Stuart dynasty. And the reason they needed a sort of breakaway civilization to maintain their dynasty and their way of life goes even further back, all the way to and it sounds old hat and very like Da Vinci Code, but the more and more.
Who were the Stuarts? I don't know anything.
Okay,
about
so
this,
the Stuarts were Scottish royalty stemming from Robert the Bruce. And so they become, the one that really has a lot of pull first is Mary Queen of Scots. So you had Henry VIII. Henry VIII is the King of England who didn't want to be with his. So the whole world's Catholic at that point. Henry VIII. You're talking 1500s and late 1400s, early 1500s. And Henry VIII didn't want to be with his Catholic wife anymore. She couldn't give him a son, and he was into this chick named Anne Boleyn, who wasn't exactly a peasant, but she had like kind of noble family ties, but she definitely wasn't queen material. And so Henry VIII goes through this That's when England splits from the church. The Pope won't give him. He goes to the Pope and is like, "Hey, can you officially let us divorce?" And the Pope's like, "No," because he's married to Catherine of Aragon, Aragon. I can't remember which one is Lord of the Rings and which one's real.
Aragorn, I think, is Lord of the Rings.
All right, so it's Catherine of Aragon, and Spanish princess. You know what I mean? Her dad's the king of Spain and huge Catholic state. And so the Pope is like, no. So that's when Henry VIII creates the Church of England, and there's a split with the Catholic Church. Now the Protestant kind of Reformation had started prior to then, but it hadn't really taken root as much as it did when the King of England goes, to hell with the Catholic Church, and they create the Anglican Church of England. Which means they have a different, like a high bishop, and it's separate. But
all of this just to get rid of a chick.
Yeah, 100%. Henry VIII was a gnarly dude. He killed a lot of chicks. He divorced a lot. So he's got a daughter with Catherine of Aragon. Can't get the divorce, so he separates the whole country from the Catholic Church, and then he marries Anne Boleyn. She can't give him a daughter. He has her killed on some trumped up charges. So with Catherine of Aragon, he has Bloody Mary, the woman who ends up becoming Bloody Mary. And then with Anne Boleyn, he has Elizabeth the First. And then he gets rid of her and then does marry not a commoner, but even kind of, I think, lower down on the like kind of noble scale. Then and he just has a bunch of daughters. He had a son, and he took over as king, but he was really young and he died. He was a sickly kid and he died. Anyway, meanwhile, Henry VIII had a sister. I believe it was a sister, who married into the Scottish nobility, and they have a daughter, and that is Mary, Queen of Scots. And so this is really muddled and murky, but that's how it is with these crazy royals. So Henry VIII gets a divorce. He dies. His little son dies. And so there's this like big to do. Well, who's going to be the queen?
So he had a son and then the son died?
Yeah. And I think the son may have been with the third wife. Yeah, because he was super young. He was younger than his sisters. They try to get him in there, but he's sickly and he dies. Well, when he dies, the daughter, who ends up becoming known as Bloody Mary, she's been married off to the King of Spain, King Philip of Spain. She becomes the Queen of England, right? Mm-hmm. Well, she's Catholic because her mom, the original divorcee, she's Catholic Spain. So she leaves Spain, Spain, where she's married to the King of Spain, comes over to England, and at that point, the Empire of England is united with Spain, and he was like the king of like a bunch of other places too at that time. And she's awful. She brings Catholicism back, starts killing all the Protestants, and then she dies. And they jump up her half sister, the second chick's daughter, which is Elizabeth I. So you're talking about the Elizabethan era. Then that's Shakespeare, Francis Bacon, the whole deal. Well, it was a controversy because this daughter of King Henry VIII's sister, Mary, Queen of Scots, over in Scotland, there is an argument that can be made that she had a better claim to that throne, right? Because she's actually of that bloodline because it came from this is like crazy muddle. Yeah. So Queen Elizabeth I, she doesn't take a husband the entire time she is queen.
Lesbo?
Maybe amongst other things, she's known as the Virgin Queen. That is solely the reason that Virginia is named Virginia. Oh. It's after Queen Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen, except for that there is a theory that I subscribe to. It's not my theory. A lot of far smarter people came up with this, and it's been around for a long, long time, is that Queen Elizabeth actually had a son in secret, and that son is Sir Francis Bacon. And
Who is? I saw you on a different talking about this on a different show, and people were saying that he's also Shakespeare.
100%. Yeah, by committee. Francis Bacon had a literary society. So Francis Bacon is this child who is born to Queen Elizabeth's, supposedly, this is the official story, is that this son is born to, in the late 1500s, to Queen Elizabeth's father's main advisor, Nicholas Bacon. Okay. But for some reason, Queen Elizabeth decides that as soon as he's born, she's going to bring him into the palace and completely take care of his upbringing, his schooling, everything. Well, at the exact same time, she also brings in this guy, Dudley, Robert Dudley, who was the son of another one of her father's advisors. And when her sister, Bloody Mary, was the queen, she actually had her half-sister, Queen Elizabeth, put into the Tower of London because she didn't want anybody to try to take her out of, being the queen and then put her sister in. So while she's killing all the Protestants, Queen Elizabeth, or Princess Elizabeth, is in the Tower of London locked up. Well, also, Robert Dudley, her childhood friend, son of her father's advisor, he's locked up in the Tower of London as well at the same time, which is a pretty cushy prison kind of system.
Yeah, I was in the Tower of London like last year, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's where she is. And
it did not seem cushy. Maybe relatively cushy.
Yeah, I think where they were in the Tower of London, she wasn't like laying on straw and stuff. They had like a royal apartment in there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like witness protection,
Kinda.
But as the story goes, and supposedly there's documentation to prove this, a priest comes in secret while they're both in the Tower of London and marries them. And then very shortly after, her sister dies, she becomes a queen. And then all of a sudden, this kid is born to the next door neighbors, and she brings him in. At the same time, that guy, Robert Dudley, who was not a nobleman at all, his dad was an advisor, but didn't have that kind of noble blood. She up jumps him to her Lord of Horse. So she
Lord of Horse?
Horse.
Oh.
Horse, yeah. So she quite literally got with the stable boy and had a kid. And we do know that shortly before Francis Bacon is born, a bunch of people out in the outskirts of London get their tongues cut out and their heads cut off and hung for spreading lies and rumors that the queen is pregnant. A bunch of people had gone to court, come back home to their villages and whatnot, and were like, hey, I don't think she's the virgin queen anymore. And then sure enough, and there's documentation that some folks got punished for that. So you have this guy, Francis Bacon. He gets, brought up, best education, quite literally is probably one of the most brilliant, if not the most brilliant human being to ever walk the face of the planet. By 12 years old, they say he had read every single thing in print, like on Earth. And I mean, at that time, it was a lot less than what we have now.
Sure, it was 4 books.
I think by 14, he was enrolled at Cambridge. By 15, he left Cambridge due to boredom. And then by 16, he was back at Cambridge teaching. And then, of course, he goes to Gray's Inn, which is like the law school, gets a law degree, and then becomes really high up within Queen Elizabeth's court. They have a falling out later, and a lot of people, and that's kind of in conjunction with this rebellion that happens involving Lord Essex, and that's a whole backstory.
Yeah.
But he kind of falls. I mean, there's so many tendrils. But the point of this was, you asked me who the Stuarts
about
are,
about the Shakespeare thing.
It's kind of hard.
So did Shakespeare not? Do they contend that Shakespeare didn't exist?
So there was a man, and his name was from Stratford-upon-Avon, which is outside of London, and his name was William Shagspar. And William Shagspar was he was the son of a glove maker and I think sort of a wool merchant who came to London. And the only real evidence that he had anything to do with any of these plays that we have is that he may have been in some of them as an actor. Like that's the real like grassroots story that they tell. This like kind of nobody from outside of London came in as an actor and then wrote all these plays and basically created what we consider the modern English language. Yet no one in history has ever found one single thing ever written in the hand of Shakespeare. Which, if you're thinking, oh, it's back in history, it's a long time ago.
That's a good point, actually. I never thought of that.
All of his contemporaries, you can wipe your butt with the amount of crap that is left over from letters to them, letters from them to other people.
There's not one letter from William Shakespeare?
Nothing. The only thing that we have from William Shakespeare is like 7 signatures. 3 of them are on his will, and the other 4 are on like legal documents because he was kind of a douche, this Shagspar guy, and he was getting like sued and taken to court all the time. He was kind of a shady dealer. And the crazy thing is that out of these 7 signatures, none of them match handwriting wise, and they're all misspelled or spelled differently.
Yeah.
Pointing to the fact that it was probably whoever he was, the lawyer in the case of the will, the lawyer probably knew this man was illiterate and signed his name for him. And then on the other side, these legal proceedings, it was a lawyer, a judge, somebody like that signing off on that paperwork. The man, William Shagspar of Stratford-upon-Avon, in his will, he did not leave a pencil, a quill, a piece of paper, any books. There's no way to show that he owned a single book. His parents were illiterate. His wife was illiterate. All of his children were illiterate. The man who is responsible for the creation of something like over 400, it might be 4,000, but I'll stick with 400 because I don't have it in front of me right now. But like 400 words that didn't exist.
Yeah.
And
didn't own a book.
Yeah, and the greatest writer in the history of the English language never taught his kids to read. That's absolutely insane. I think what he was a guy who was a contemporary of when, these plays were being written, and he may have gotten, also these plays weren't attributed to him during his lifetime.
It was only, and what's the reason for someone like Francis Bacon to not take credit for all these works?
Okay. So the Shakespearean works are works that would get you, at the least, well, one, it was super below a noble person's position to write anything. The noble folks of that time were basically people of leisure. They didn't write. Being an author wasn't what it is today, where you're respected and you're learned. And I mean, it took that to do it, but you were still
wasn't esteemed.
Yeah, you were several castes below, the dukes and the earls and the lords and whatnot. And so that's a small portion. And I'll talk about who may have helped Francis Bacon write these things. And then on the other hand, like a lot of those Shakespearean plays, if not most of them, are pretty risque. 1, sexually risque. 2, heretical as far as the church, depending on what monarch was in at the time. It was Elizabeth, so she was a little light, but you couldn't say a lot of these kind of pagan things. Also, a ton of them were very critical of monarchies, past, present, and and where the country was going. They were all things that kind of would get you in prison. In fact, one of the other possible people who may have written Shakespeare, a guy named Christopher Marlowe, who my daughter is named after, was literally jailed.
Her name's Christopher?
No, her name's Marlowe.
Oh.
Yeah. Was jailed several times for heresy, for things that he wrote and things that he said. And it just, if Francis Bacon, a guy within the court, and you got to think, if this guy was the illegitimate son of Queen Elizabeth, knowing that he has the strongest, claim to the throne, but he's never going to get it because he's not claimed, but he's one of the most brilliant people on the planet, and he wants to talk crap about, the government. Well, he's not going to be able to do that kind of publicly. Now, they put on some of these plays for the Queen and stuff like that, and it was kind of, they were popular, but I there's really no proof that they were attributed to anyone. So there's nobody to be in trouble. Now, you look at Francis Bacon, and Francis Bacon, so I'm sort of on the side of what they call the Baconians, the Baconian theory that Bacon wrote Shakespeare. But there's Oxfordians, and there's people who think the 17th Earl of Oxford wrote them, that Sir Walter Raleigh may have written some, that the Countess of Pembroke may have written some, Christopher Marlowe may have written some. Well, the crazy thing is that Sir Francis Bacon at that time had a literary society called the Society of the Helmet. And back then, these literary societies were a thing, and they weren't like necessarily like uber secret societies. They weren't super secretive, but they were, off the beaten path and fairly secret, because they were akin to like the salon culture in France, where like-minded people would get together and they would debate and they would put new ideas forward. They'd complain about the church. They'd talk about sex. They'd, whatever they could do within a group of 10, 15 people in a parlor somewhere that they could not do in court or wherever. And so Francis Bacon had one, and it was called the Society of the Helmet. And the reason it was called the Society of the Helmet is because their patron muse for the society was the goddess Athena. And the goddess Athena is known to wear her helmet, but the other thing she's known for is shaking her spear of knowledge in the face of the beast of ignorance. Right. So Shakespeare. Well, the other crazy part of this is that Sir Walter Raleigh, the 17th Earl of Pembroke, the 17th Earl of Oxford, Christopher Marlowe, the Countess of Pembroke, they were all part of Bacon's Society of the Helmet, right? At the same time that the works of Shakespeare are being written and putting on, and these plays are going on, it'd be towards the end of it, but also the King James Bible is being written, okay? And this is where the Stuarts come in. So you have all the Shakespeare plays being written late 1500s, right into the early 1600s. 1611 is when the last Shakespearean play is written, and that really, really connects with the state of Virginia, and we can get into that.
Yeah, let's get into that. Yeah, I mean, the Shakespeare thing's crazy, but
so you just point me where you want me to go.
Well, so we were talking about Mary Queen of Scots, I think, and then
yeah,
but Virginia conspiracies. How does this all tie it in? And we're gonna open the phone lines in like 5 minutes if anybody has any questions for you.
So there was the 1607. So Elizabeth dies, and Francis Bacon is on the outs.
When did Francis Bacon die?
1623 or 21, I want to say.
But the last Shakespeare
1611.
1611.
Now, what connects this with Virginia is the fact that Francis Bacon was one of the heads of the Virginia Company of London. The Virginia Company of London was the company that got the charter to come over and explore, find natural resources in the New World. That was given to that company in the reign of King James. King James was the king that took over after Queen Elizabeth died. And that's interesting because King James was basically her second cousin. Her cousin, Mary Queen of Scots, was a Stuart over in Scotland who had a better claim to the throne, but they killed her. But they didn't kill her until Queen Elizabeth made an agreement with her that your son will be the heir. Since I don't have an heir, your son will be the heir. And then they tricked Mary Queen of Scots to coming over another time, and they cut her head off at Whitehall. Excuse me. So Elizabeth dies, and Bacon is kind of on the outs with Queen Elizabeth. King James I becomes the king, the first Stuart king of England. So he's the king of England and Scotland and Ireland. And all of a sudden, Francis Bacon pops back over, and he's back in good standing with the monarchy. Within that time, Francis Bacon becomes one of several leaders of the Virginia Company of London. They get the charter to go over to the New World and set up a colony, look for resources, blah, blah, blah. So that's where Bacon and the Stuarts and that whole thing finally comes together. Now, in 1607, they send the likes of, John Smith. That's the whole Pocahontas trip, that whole thing. Sir Gabriel Archer, this crypto Catholic who was kind of in charge of the expedition. Christopher Newport, John Smith. John Smith was supposed to get hung as soon as they hit land. That dude gets a horribly bad rap.
What's his? I don't know. I've never heard of him. What's his?
John Smith.
Yeah.
So he's the guy that everybody says.
He's the guy from Pocahontas.
If you watch the Pocahontas Disney movie, he's the guy who's in love with Pocahontas.
What's his like historical?
So he comes over on the original mission and tries to start a mutiny. He's a little bit lower class than the aristocrats on board. 3 ships coming over to the New World, right? And he basically they claim that he tries to start a mutiny on the way over. So they're like, cool, put him in chains. When we get to land, we're gonna hang him, right? Except for the Virginia Company of London, aka Francis Bacon, has this sealed chest on board one of the ships that basically isn't supposed to be opened until they get to land. Once you get to land, you open it up, and that's going to be who inside you're going to find who all the officers and what positions the company wants these people to be once they get over there. Well, they get to land, they're going to hang John Smith. They open it up, and Francis Bacon, the company's already got him penciled in to be like, an important figure, a person over there.
Should have just thrown him overboard.
We wouldn't know. Everybody would have died, and the country wouldn't have started until much later, because John Smith, while the rest of these white lace aristocrats, that's largely what they sent over here on the first mission. Guys who didn't want to work and thought they were going to find gold and all this stuff, and they just died and pissed off the natives. Meanwhile, John Smith, as soon as he shows up, he jumps in a boat. He's like, yeah, good luck over here. I'm going to go explore. He immediately just spends the next year or so going up and down the entire East Coast, mapping the whole place. And the official story about John Smith is that he was a criminal, and this was his only option, was to jump on this thing and try to make a new life for himself. It's not what he was. If you ever watch Game of Thrones, Bronn of the Blackwater, the sellsword, that's what John Smith's early life was. If you read his autobiographical books, dude, he was over in Turkey and whatnot, fighting as a sellsword, and he was a badass, winning whole battles in single man combat, where you send out your best guy, I'll send out my best guy, and John Smith's cutting the heads off of these dudes, and then becoming Anyway, so that whole thing is happening. That's 1607, right? And they're in Jamestown. John Smith's doing his thing. He has his encounters with Pocahontas and the Powhatan tribes and kings and whatnot. And but meanwhile, all the people in the dang in the settlement, they're just dying. I mean, they're cannibalizing each other. They're eating shoe leather. They're getting attacked by Indians. Every time John Smith smooths stuff over with the natives, they do something stupid like start starving, and then they run out and go kidnap, a native. And then that pisses the natives are helping feed them for a while, but then they blow through it, and then they kidnap a native so they'll feed them again, and they come in and take out a bunch. Anyway,
start shit.
Yeah, so it's just a mess over there. They send us a resupply mission in 1608. They eat up all that food, all those people die, and then they send a huge one in 1609. Now, the 1609 supply mission was 9 ships, okay? They hit a hurricane around Bermuda, and all the ships get scattered. All but one make it to Virginia within a couple of weeks here and there. The largest ship of the whole fleet purposely crash lands itself on the island of Bermuda. Everybody survives. They all get off the ship. They live on Bermuda for a year. Meanwhile, they take apart the original ship and build 2 more ships on the island of Bermuda. This is in 1609. By 1610, they jump on the 2 new ships, make it to Virginia, and so in 1610 they finally arrive. Everybody's dead again. They're hurting bad, but one of the guys who was on that ship that crash landed and made it over on the 2 new ships is a guy named William Strachey. He immediately disembarks and writes the account of what happened on the island of Bermuda that year, right? And then he sends it to Francis Bacon's wife. Okay, so by 1610, Francis Bacon's wife is holding an account, and by way of, Francis Bacon is holding an account of what happens on the island of Bermuda. 1611 is the first publishing of Shakespeare's final play, The Tempest. The Tempest is about a ship that crash lands on a tropical island, and all this crazy stuff ensues. Whoa. There's like 4 or 5 characters in the Shakespeare play whose names are exactly the same as folks who are on the island. Also, remember the Society of the Helmet? William Strachey, the guy who writes the account in Jamestown, sends it over to England. He is a member of Bacon's literary society, so that's why he sent it to Bacon. What's really crazy, too, is that in 1623, after Bacon's death, is the publishing of the first folio of Shakespeare. At that point, Shakespeare's plays were never in one place altogether, like in one book. They weren't in a couple books. They were just scattered. They were, playbills and scripts and things like that. Nobody could really, unless you were an actor, you couldn't just read a Shakespeare play. They weren't really available like that. So in 1623, right after Bacon's death, friends of Bacon put together all the Shakespeare plays and put it out as the first folio of Shakespeare, all his sonnets and his plays. Well, The Tempest is the very last play written, but it's the very first play that appears in the first folio of Shakespeare. Not only that, famously so, that first folio of Shakespeare is filled with Baconian ciphers. People have picked that thing apart and found markers from Francis Bacon all over it, including the page numbers. It's this gigantic book right here. I don't know if you can see it.
I can't see it. Yeah, it's off screen, but
it's massive. And if you open it up, every play is a mess. They screwed up the page numbers. So you'll be on page like 150, and then the next page is 290, and then the next page is 47, and then you know what I mean?
Yeah,
except for The Tempest. The Tempest starts. It's the very first play. It's perfect. I'm about to have Robert Frederick, who's a Bacon scholar and a friend of mine. He's coming back on the podcast, and we're going to break down The Tempest completely, because The Tempest is also just allegory for all Masonic ritual before Masons were officially a thing.
Yeah. And are there big, by the way, the phone lines are open, everybody, 1-888-949-2969. So is there a big Masonic connection to Virginia?
Massive.
Massive. Is that where it started? Like outside?
So no, it was in Europe.
Yeah.
In Scotland for sure, as early as 1590s. But the big coming out party of Freemasonry wasn't until 1717. The formation of the Grand Lodge of London happens in 1717, and there is a clear line of succession from the Stuarts up through, and really from them all the way back through the Plantagenets, the Templars, the Carolinians, all the way back to the Merovingian kings of the fifth to the 8th century kings, the people who claimed that they had the bloodline of Christ, this Magdalene bloodline. And again, it's old hat and kind of conspiracy cliche, but the more and more I get into it, I don't believe that they were of the bloodline of Christ, but their entire thing was the Merovingian.
Is that what the Masons purport? Is that they're of the bloodline of Christ?
So they definitely connect themselves to the Templars and further back. I mean, the Masons claim that they come from the building of the Temple of Solomon. That's where they claim their heritage is the Masons, the actual physical Masons from the Temple of Solomon. And so Solomon's their guy. And then those secrets supposedly got passed down through these mystery schools in the Middle East, in the Levant, for millennia. And then by the time the Merovingians come around in the 500s, now they're this southern France group of aristocracy, monarchy, who claims that they have the bloodline of Christ, because they have this whole story about how Mary Magdalene escaped and came to France, and then she had Christ's baby with her, and then there's this bloodline, and they claim that. But the Merovingian kings and a dynasty, that was their claim to the throne, and that's where the divine right of kings comes from, is that there's this Christ bloodline. So in these Christian nations, we have been chosen by God to be your monarch. Now, I don't think it necessarily means that there was a bloodline, but that's what they imbued their family and their dynasty with, and it worked for a long time. And then when it stopped working, you can watch that bloodline through the female side switch over to the Carolinian dynasty, and that's Charlemagne. And it runs through the Carolinian dynasty until, from the female side, it bounces over to the Plantagenets. And then at that point, the Plantagenets are around the time of the Crusades, and that's when the Templars end up becoming all-powerful, and they're involved with the Plantagenets. And then from the Templars end up, a lot of them taking refuge in Scotland when Philip of France gets pissed off at him because he owes them a bunch of money. A bunch of them end up in Scotland, the ones who escape. And that's when this Stuart line and Robert the Bruce and all these Masonic mystery school principles get kind of interwoven into the Scottish dynasty of the Stuarts. And then that Stuart bloodline then jumps over to being the King of England, and then so on. That's when America or the colonies are created.
Interesting. And so what other kind of Virginia conspiracy? I feel like this is obviously
isn't mind-numbing.
Yeah. Well, not. It's all very. I'm actually really interested in this stuff, but I'm just wondering, like, how, because obviously, everybody from Virginia probably came from there, so it's all pertinent to all of this. You talk about a lot about what William and Mary, the college.
Yeah, which is all involved in this. So William and Mary is begun. The idea for it is in 1618. That's when the Stuarts are still steadily and firmly on the throne of England. It doesn't actually end up getting built until 1690. They don't get the charter until 1693. Now, this is after what they call the Glorious Revolution, and that is when this Hanoverian king marries one of the Stuart women and become the king and queen of England. They depose the Stuart king, who is Charles II. And now you do technically still have a Stuart on there, but it's kind of broken that line. And this college is built in Williamsburg on land bought from somebody who has a direct line of lineage all the way back to the southern France Templar Knights. And what's crazy is I have all these alignments and measurements and things like that that show,
like from aerial photography kind of thing.
Yeah. I actually have slides that I can
I don't think I can
if-
show them just because your screen split, so it'd be all muddled.
Yeah, no worries. But you know, the very original piece of land is a very distinct triangle that is the original historic campus of William and Mary. From the border where the woods were to the cleared land is in between the two oldest roads in the country, Jamestown Road and Richmond Road. And they come to a point, and at the end of that point starts Duke of Gloucester Street, where the rest of Williamsburg was eventually laid out. But they form this perfect triangle. And that perfect triangle is the exact measurements of the Great Pyramid of Giza. I mean, to
Really?
the foot. Yeah, to the foot. And so I measure all that out, and just on a whim, because, dude, I'm not like a historian or anything like that. I've been into conspiracy since, George W. is kind of when I woke up. And
Okay.
I kind of had been, steeped in this stuff for a while. And I'm like, well, that's weird. I wonder what would happen if I drew a line from the Great Pyramid of Giza over to William and Mary. And if you draw a line starting at the bottom right corner of the William and Mary pyramid and go through right down the side perfectly and hit right on top of the apex, and you draw that line straight over to the Giza pyramid complex, you land directly on the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza. But not only that, you run down the exact same line, the corner of the pyramid that is represented at the William and Mary pyramid.
Would they have had those specifications back then? Like those exact?
Well, what's interesting is that, there wasn't a lot, but if you put stock into the idea that, Masonry is a group of people who do have secrets, and navigation secrets, studying the star secrets, and that their knowledge goes all the way back to the Egyptian mystery schools, which is what they claim. And I think to a certain degree, it's an honest claim. I don't know that there's this unbroken line of succession from Solomon and the early Egyptian mystery schools, but I do think that at some point, maybe as late as the Crusades, those Templars may have come across those kind of secrets. And, knowing, the importance of the pyramids may have been one of those secrets, the measurements, what the pyramids were used for, all that. You don't really see anybody getting buried underneath a pyramid or an obelisk until after the Crusades. That's a very post-Crusade thing. And then all of a sudden, Masons and people like that have pyramids all over their Gothic European architecture. And so, I think they definitely had the navigation abilities to be able to draw that line. They were experts in the stars. The other crazy thing is the very first building, which is the oldest continually used college building in the whole country. It's the Wren building at the campus of William and Mary. It has a bell tower on top of it, but when it was originally built, it wasn't a bell tower. It was the colony's first astronomical observatory. So literally on the land that is in a perfect encode for the Great Pyramid of Giza, you have a building that has an observatory, which would be necessary for navigating that sort of thing.
Right.
Not to mention it's named after and designed by, and it's argued whether he designed it or or if it was inspired by his designs, a guy named Sir Christopher Wren. And Sir Christopher Wren was one of the founders of the Royal Society. The Royal Society was the precursor to Freemasonry and the Grand Lodge of London. In fact, Sir Christopher Wren was one of the first members of the Grand Lodge of London, that 1717 kind of Masonic coming out party. His son was actually the worshipful master of that Grand Lodge.
All right, you know what? We got a caller on the line here. Let's put a pin in that for a second, and let's take a couple calls. Okay, we got Eric and then Goob. The Goob I know wants to chat with you about this one. We're gonna go first to Eric if he unmutes himself. If not, then we'll go to the Goob. All right, there we go. Eric, are you there?
Yo, I'm here, dude.
What's up? You're on with Ernie.
Hey.
Oh, nice. Actually, I got a solution to our epithetical conundrum with Slav.
Okay. Slav's not banned anymore, by the way. His ban's over.
No, I know, but he's going to get himself banned again. We know
He is
that.
going to get himself banned again, 100%. He's going to get himself permanently banned. Ernie, this is a caller that we have who's just likes to step over the line. But just to fill you in.
Yeah, I'm just trying to help a brother out.
Okay.
Instead of what he says, let's just call them Figaros. You know, those fucking Figaros. We don't have to hear from them anymore.
That's not even the thing that gets him banned. He just can't call gay people the F slur. And he doesn't even call gay people that. He just uses the word.
What F slur do you think I'm trying to replace with that word?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, he can call them anything. There's just literally,
I know,
honestly,
I'm
YouTube.
giving him a hint because it's got the same first letter. You got some hard vowels.
It's not going to do it for him. I wish that this was just a simple solution, but I don't think he can resist just being an edgy boy on the internet.
Yeah, but if we got a little in-group knowledge on it, it'll be fine.
He can do whatever he wants, man.
I'm just trying to save him from the ban.
I mean,
he has hilarious shit to say.
YouTube is literally wide open right now. Like, this is not YouTube of 4 years ago. You can pretty much say almost anything. It's just not. It's not 100% open. But anyways, he's not banned anymore.
Would you rather get like 1,000 viewers on Rumble, where we can all just be degenerates?
Rumble sucks. Okay, Rumble for the last 3 weeks.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying the degeneracy is necessary.
Rumble for the last 3 weeks, for some reason, all of my streams have been cut off after the intro. I don't know why. I'm streaming there like I normally have before. They have just been cut off. Also, the view numbers on Rumble are all fake.
Damn.
It's like, dude, literally, it's like if you see something, they are. I'm telling you, like when you see the numbers on there,
are they going to be faker than the 270 you get on YouTube?
I mean, these are real people. At least these are real.
But if Rumble sends you money for whatever view count they
Rumble doesn't. No, they don't. First off, they don't. You don't get.
Oh, they don't send money. Okay, never mind then.
No, it's like
I assume people are on there because they got some sort of money.
I mean, if you get like the equivalent of super chats, not to like shit on Rumble, I know they're trying, but like they do all this weird shit. Man, I'm telling you, like if you see a video that has 10,000 views on Rumble, it's actually like 2,000 views for some reason.
All right. I'll not. I don't know. I was just trying to come up with an eye for him. I don't really give a shit about social media streaming. All that is the words I can't say, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just trying to do a fucking call-in radio show. All right. Later, man.
I love it, dude. I still listen to Art Bell.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Art Bell, the dog. All right. Thanks, dog. Eric, everybody. All right. Let's go to the Goob. Phone lines are open, everybody. 1-888-949-2969. And we're going to go to the Goob. There we go. Goob, are you there?
Yeah, how's it going, Danny?
What's up, buddy?
So your guest has been talking about a whole lot of people, a whole lot of things, and there's a name that's like very central to everything he's been discussing that I haven't heard. Is he familiar with Dees?
Oh, yeah, shut up.
Dees nuts?
Dees nut? No, John Dees, for real.
There's an actual guy named Dees.
Yeah, I'm familiar with John D. The thing about
the one time of like ever where you go, no, there is a guy named John Dees. He is central to this entire thing.
Yeah, he really is. John Dee was well, he was a lot of things. He was also a brilliant person. He was one of Queen Elizabeth's highest advisors. He was also kind of her astrologer and kind of divinator. He also had this whole period with a guy named Edward Kelly where they were wife swapping and learning from the angels, and they came up with this entire Enochian language. And for a long time, they were getting all this really great information. It was like this weird thing where these angels would come to them in these like kind of trance settings, and they would give them these letters and numbers, and it built like this Enochian this language, the language of the angels, and they built this big table that was filled with all this language. And then Edward Kelly was the partner of John Dee. He would like look into an obsidian mirror, and they would ask questions, and then he would dictate what the angels, quote unquote angels, said to John Dee, and then using this Enochian table, they could decipher what it meant. And for a long time, these guys were, John Dee claimed to be a devout Christian, and they were speaking to angels, so they thought it was okay. And then it got weirder and weirder and weirder as it went along, to the point where the angels started suggesting wife swapping. Now, Edward Kelly, John Dee's partner, had been kind of run out of a few towns for being a charlatan. And from what it seems, John Dee had a pretty hot wife and Edward Kelly did not. So we're not sure that really that suggestion really came from the angels, but that's neither here nor there. Like John Dee,
right? Yeah, their relationship was very interesting, but he was deeply involved in a lot of the things you're talking about. I mean, Elizabeth becoming queen might not have happened without him. The British Empire itself might not have happened without him. And then you were talking about Francis Bacon being Shakespeare, and I mean, John Dees was the original 007, and then Bacon seems to have adopted that moniker after him after being tutored by Dees, and so he's even related to like Shakespeare potentially and things like that.
Yeah, so I believe that John Dee tutored Bacon. A lot of Bacon's education came, some of it came abroad, and then there's actually some evidence that possibly Francis Bacon left the country and did some touring of different countries with John Dee. The only issue is there's like no, and I believe it to be true, but there's like no documented evidence that Dee and Bacon had much of a relationship. There's only this one old wood cutting, and it's pretty famous. They've used it for a bunch of different things, but I think it depicts John Dee passing a lantern to Francis Bacon. And I mean, the modern like kind of image we have of like a wizard, with the robe and the hat.
I mean, literally the photo, when you Google him, he like looks like a wizard.
Yeah, he's Dumbledore or whatever it is.
Yeah, he like legitimately looks like a wizard.
Yeah, so John Dee, I'm not throwing any shade on him at all. My story just kind of...
Are you familiar with the 007 connection?
Yeah, what is
strengthens the relationship between Dees and Bacon. So when John Dees was a spy for Elizabeth before she was even queen and after she was queen, and he went under the moniker of 007. And then if you look into documentation of Shakespeare, you find this 007 moniker hidden throughout some of the things. And if it's written by Bacon, which a lot of people suspect, where did he get that 007 unless from John Dees when he was being tutored with him? So it seems that John Dees, passed that on to him and potentially even had a role in Shakespeare itself. If Shakespeare is a moniker, it could also be multiple people. So it could have been John Dees and not Edward Kelly, but John Dees and Francis Bacon, working together to an extent.
Yeah, and John Dee kind of created spycraft. I mean, everybody had spied in all monarchies at all times, but John Dee really became adept at cipher writing and sort of high-end espionage. And yeah, he signed his kind of missives, secret missives to the Queen with a 007. At that same time, that original guy that I was talking about, who I named my daughter after, Christopher Marlowe, he was also tutored by John Dee, and was also, it's been proven that he was a somewhat of a spy for Queen Elizabeth as well, because he almost didn't graduate from Cambridge, even though he already had like 2 plays published. He was a perfect student, but he had missed a lot of class. And when it came time to hand out degrees, they weren't going to give Marlowe his degree. And then there is still preserved documentation where Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of England, wrote to Cambridge and said, no. The days that he missed, Christopher Marlowe was in my employ. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Give him his damn degree. And yeah, so I believe that entire milieu of Bacon, Essex, Raleigh, Strachey, the 17th Earl of Oxford, the Countess of Pembroke, Marlowe, and Bacon, I believe that they were all sort of part of this thing, because they were all insiders,
right,
who were still on the outside. They were all super, super inside, but they didn't have as much, true power as the monarchs.
They weren't securely inside.
No, they weren't, and they
were
just
inside by association.
Yeah, and Dee was even written off at a certain point. He had his kind of falling out and moving away from court, just like Francis Bacon did. So they were never, none of these guys were safe. And again, that's my point towards just the Shakespearean canon in general, is that even though these guys were movers and shakers and really important, really brilliant people, they could still say one thing that would get them locked up in the Tower of London, or even worse, get their heads cut off. And that is why I think just as much spying for the monarchy, or these systems and things that like Dee and Bacon and all these people developed, I think they were just as much processes to keep themselves safe.
What were spies doing 500 years ago?
Going over to Spain, going over to France.
You go over it's still international. It's not ratting out people locally.
At that time,
you schmooze with the people.
Yeah, and at that time, monarchs were switching out nonstop. There was constant, war in Europe, and one guy would be the king of Spain, and then all of a sudden he's the king of Spain and the Netherlands, and then, things were a lot more fluid.
Right. So you would get into, someone's court by being personable and popular and cool, and then you'd, learn their secrets and you'd report back.
And you make friends with other people in other courts.
Yeah.
And then those people would be, you had people in the French court who were just as sort of disgruntled or thought things were stupid as the people in the English court. And so you'd have a John Dee or a Francis Bacon go over there and ingratiate themselves into the French court, and I'm not being specific. I don't know if they ever did that in France, but in that way, they would go over there and they would look trustworthy to the monarchy, but at the same time, they'd be, same thing the CIA does now. They'd make contacts and develop assets in these other courts, and then they'd get tipped off. Hey, my boy in France just told me that they just dumped a bunch of money into their naval program.
Right.
Or
information gathering.
The king is sick, so it might be a good time to switch it up. Come over with some dudes. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I
So,
don't know any of this shit.
To hop topics a little bit, you were also earlier talking about hidden history in America.
Mm-hmm.
And how familiar are you with NAGPRA? the Native American Graves Repatriation and Protection Act?
I just recently
Goob's like the expert on this.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
am the expert on it.
Probably not
Goob
need to get
Goob
in
is the
contact with you.
expert on it. Yeah.
I know that they, just on a surface level, I know that our government uses that not as much for the natives in this country. They use it a lot of the time to cover up places and artifacts and things like that that could be of extreme historical significance that they don't want to get out. Like, I know a lot of times, they find these. I'm doing research for an episode about Thomas Jefferson and George Washington's obsession. Well, maybe not obsession, but their interest in the giants and giant bones in Virginia. George Washington.
Yeah, all those were disappeared through NAGPRA.
Yeah, they get disappeared. Oh, that came from near an Indian mound, and so they use that law or whatever to hide them from the public forever, but they don't ever give them, back to the natives. And if they do, I think the natives even have rules like, all right, put them back in the ground and cover them up.
Yeah, they bury them. Yeah. So in 2024, NAGPRA was already being used for those purposes for the last 35 years, right? And yes, all of the giant bones, that is exactly how they were disappeared legally. You are not allowed to see them. You are, as the public, you are not allowed to see those bones or know about those bones. NAGPRA has written that into law. But as of 2024, specifically January 12th, 2024, that has been expanded to literally all American history. So now there has been a mass erasure of American history that has happened and is ongoing still today through NAGPRA. Wow. It was massively, massively expanded. So, that same way that they were hiding the giant bones, they can now hide literally anything that they want and make it illegal for the public to see it, know about it, have any documentation about it. All of that can be erased and is being erased. There's a mass purge of history right now.
Things unrelated to native things?
Oh, yeah.
As well, yeah. So part of it, right? So part of the way this law was written is that it by default assumes that anything pre-Columbian is Native American. So I don't know your opinions on diffusion, but I believe it definitely happened. People made it to the Americas before Columbus. With the most recent update to NAGPRA, that is effectively an illegal avenue of study. It's effectively a banned avenue of study because by default, everything is Native American. And so you aren't able to find anything from anyone else because it's automatically Native American according to federal law now.
And that's going to erase, the Prince Madoc expedition in the 1300s, and then the Sinclair, these exact people, Scottish nobility who explored North America, the Sinclair family. Specifically, part of my other research is Nova Scotia, Oak Island, and its connections to Williamsburg and the campus of William and Mary, and the Sinclair family from Scotland in the line of the Stuarts. They 100% explored Nova Scotia, and we know for sure at least down into Massachusetts, but I think they made it all the way down to down the East Coast as far as I am. And then you've got the Prince Madoc, and I think that might even be the 1200s, maybe earlier. Maybe the Prince Madoc is this Welsh prince who has a connection in some way with the Arthurian kind of canon, and he was one of the sons of either Arthur or grandsons of Arthur, or the Welsh equivalent of King Arthur. And he basically, the father dies, it doesn't name an heir, and there's all these princes, these sons, who just start backstabbing and fighting over the kingdom. And this one prince, Madoc, gets a bunch of dudes, gets on a ship and is like, screw that, I don't even want to be king. And he takes off exploring. and there's really solid evidence that he made it to North America and actually came in through the Bay of Mobile, Alabama, and then came up through the Mississippi all the way up into like Ohio and whatnot. And there's a national forest in Alabama where it's one of the few kind of mountainous, like rocky areas, and there's this national forest, and up on a cliff there's this cave, and around the outcropping in front of the cave, like kind of this platform in front of the cave, there is a man-made wall built. And all the Native Americans in the area all say white folks built that before we even got here. And
really,
and then that's
not an uncommon narrative from the natives either. They have quite a few stories along those lines.
And so Goob, I was just gonna say, Goob, what is the kind of devil's advocate argument for why they're doing this, the NAGPRA thing, pre-even?
Yeah, archaeology is a colonial sin. It's a great evil that does harm to Native Americans still today, and so it must be undone and it must be erased, and that is the just and right thing to do.
And it's
wokeism.
That's the virtue. That's the virtue signaling side of it. And I think the other side of that, I think that view was co-opted just in a different way super early on. I guarantee you, if you look into that specific law, that you will find at the end of it, at the end of that rainbow, you will find a Rockefeller. Because in the 19-teens and the 1920s, the Rockefellers took over everything. They took over alcohol, they took over medicine, and they took over education and history. And in fact, in the 1920s, so you had the Rockefellers who never cared about people drinking, right? They never had any involvement in the temperance movement whatsoever. So, there was this big movement by women in the late 1800s, maybe mid to late 1800s, basically like marching and trying to influence politicians to do something about the alcohol consumption in America, because at that time, again, the water still wasn't great, and most people drank alcohol because it was safer all throughout the day. And
isn't that like the cider thing with like that?
Yeah,
everybody used
cider, whiskey, anything was better than getting dysentery and crapping until you died. And so they drink alcohol mostly. And so there had been this movement for a number of years of women trying to it was destroying families, and alcoholism was a even bigger problem than it is now. And they never really had any support. Everybody's like, yeah, shut up, we're going to drink, And then around the 19-teens and 1920s, the automobile industry is created. And with the automobile industry, you have farm equipment. You now have farmers buying tractors and motorized farm equipment that made them much more successful, is much more efficient. But what you also have is these farmers realizing, oh, we don't have to buy this gasoline that runs these things. We can take all of our waste and ferment it and turn it into, grain alcohol and pour that in our tanks. And then we have a self sustaining fuel source for this new farm equipment. Well, who are the oil barons? The Rockefellers. So right there in the 20s, all of a sudden the Rockefellers become super concerned about alcohol, dump millions into the temperance movement, and what happens? Prohibition. Now you can't.
That's an interesting angle on the temperance movement I'd never heard before.
Yeah. Now you can't build a still on your farm because that's technically you're brewing alcohol, right? Now they did the exact same thing with medicine. The Rockefellers, what's the other thing that their petroleum produces? Petroleum-based pharmaceuticals. So they've got oil and gas for automobiles on lock now. You can't make your own. And so they they tackle the medicine. Now, back in the like late 1800s, early 1900s, into the 20s, you had herbal doctors, you had homeopathic doctors, so you had like naturalists and homeopathic doctors, and then you had, petroleum-based medicine. And at that time, and my great-great-grandmother was a Native American, and she was the herbal doctor in her town in Alabama, right? But at that time, medicine was sort of split up. Like, if you had a stomach ache or something that could be cured by an herb doctor, you went to that doctor.
Yeah.
They were the specialists. But, if you had to get something amputated, yeah, you'd go see the surgeon guy and he'd give you some pharmaceutical so that you could handle it. So there was a place for everything. Well, the Rockefellers didn't like that. They need a monopoly on everything. So what do? They dump a ton of money into Johns Hopkins, create the first real regulated medical school, the American Medical Association. I believe that's the body that was influenced by them. And they create a curriculum and a path by which you can become an official doctor. And then they start outlawing all of the other stuff. And that's when herb doctors and homeopathic doctors go away. It's illegal. The only thing you can do is go to a Rockefeller-based doctor who is going to, that's the beginning of petroleum-based pharmaceuticals. So at that exact same time, I mean, literally, this was a full court press by the William Randolph Hearst, the robber barons of the turn of the century it's the same thing that Hearst did with hemp and marijuana, where all of a sudden there was an efficient way to produce hemp. Hemp had always been the absolute best fiber, best fuel, best clean burning oil. The Declaration of Independence is written on hemp paper. The word
First
canvas,
Model T.
Yep, the word canvas comes from cannabis. So that Columbus and the Sinclair ships, all of their sails on their ships were made from canvas, which was made from cannabis because it was so much tougher. The problem with hemp was the processing of it. Nobody had created, it was a real pain in the butt to process it because it was such a tough material, right? And so nobody had come up with a really efficient way to process hemp. It was an arduous process to make a piece of paper out of hemp, right? Well, pulp wood paper was much easier, and you didn't have to cut down a forest and then plant a new crop. You just went and cut down all the forests, and then you had all the product for your paper. Well, William Randolph Hearst owned like 100 newspapers around the turn of the century. He owned 100 newspapers. He also owned, a little known thing is, he owned all the paper mills as well. And then in the 1920s, a guy comes along, I can't remember his name, who creates a machine that processes hemp more efficiently, and it's going to compete with the paper mills.
What, they just ruin them?
And so what does William Randolph Hearst do? Since he owns all the newspapers, he starts putting out fake stories, provable fake stories about Mexicans smuggling this plant across the border, giving it to black people, and then black people are smoking it and raping white women. All of a sudden in the 1920s, there's a
Leave for Madness, great movie.
Yeah.
There's a rash of bullshit stories about this exact thing. The word marijuana isn't even a word that was ever used to describe hemp or cannabis. Marijuana is a wild tobacco plant that grows south of the border. Oh, excuse me. And so what happens is everybody freaks out and goes, oh, it's the same thing that happened with 9/11.
It seems like just everything is always just follow the money.
The American, they give you the problem, and then the American people beg them to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And solving the problem makes one person rich. Now, to get back to why this is important to history and whatnot, is the Rockefellers create the Rockefeller Foundation. Do you know where the Rockefellers were? So in the 1920s, they do the same thing with building the curriculums, investing in textbook companies. They start controlling all of the information that has to do with our history, right? The Rockefellers swooped into Williamsburg, my hometown, in the 1920s at this exact same time. In the early 1920s, a woman named Marie Bauer Hall, who is the wife of Manly P. Hall, who is the most prolific and learned Freemasonic, Rosicrucian, esoteric writer probably in America's history. He was a West Coast-based guy who, he wrote The Secret Teaching of All Ages, all these like conspiracy theory, basically Bibles now. The Secrets of America or America's Secret Origins or something like that. So his wife in the 1920s hooks up with this doctor out of Ohio, I want to say, who's obsessed with Francis Bacon and Shakespeare, and he gets with her because he's a fan of her husband, and they start corresponding back and forth, and he has this way to decode Shakespearean writings and pull out messages that Francis Bacon left in them. Well, through that and decoding Francis Bacon writings, Shakespearean writings, and all the tombstones in one of the oldest churchyards in America, which is right in Williamsburg, Bruton Parish Church, she discovers what she thinks is a vault buried or below 20 feet below the church tower of Bruton Parish, right? So she comes out with this book called The Bruton Vault, or the history of the Bruton Vault, something like that, in the 1920s. Directly after that, the Rockefellers, and her idea was that from what she had decoded, there was something having to do with Bacon or Shakespeare, or possibly the descendant of Francis Bacon, Nathaniel Bacon, who created a revolution in the early colonies in 1676, exactly 100 years before our actual revolution. But he died, and his body was never found. And so her claim was that there's a vault buried 20 feet under the bell tower that's 20 feet by 20 feet, and there's something having to do with Francis Bacon, Shakespeare, something like that, Freemasons buried in this vault. Well, right when that book comes out, the Rockefellers swoop into Williamsburg, buy the whole town. At that time, Williamsburg was not this like museum, tourist historical destination. It was a podunk, rundown southern town that nobody really cared about that much anymore, because the capital of Virginia had long since moved to Richmond, like 45 miles up the road. They swoop in, buy the whole town, kick everybody out of their houses, and then create this living museum, right? Where you cannot do an archaeological dig without the express written consent of the Rockefeller Foundation, right? So they shape the history of that town 100% to what their curriculum is. And if you go to Williamsburg, it's very interesting. There's cool stuff to see there, but it is the plastic Disneyland version of history. Can you guess where they were?
Sanitized.
Where they left from to come to Williamsburg and do that?
Where?
They were at Stratford-upon-Avon, the town of William Shagspar, doing the exact same thing, shaping the history of that town.
Crazy. Okay, Goob, I gotta let you go because we got a couple more callers, but thank you, Goob. Crazy, man. That's you really know how to tie the shit all together. Okay, 2 more calls. We got Pablo, and then the return of Slav. Yeah, Pablo.
Hello.
What's up, buddy?
Pablo.
How's it going, Danny?
How you doing?
Hello. How's it going? Great guys. I'm enjoying this quite a bit.
Yeah, me too.
So I'll make it quick. Since I know you have other callers. I started with 2 questions. I now have 3 questions. So
go ahead.
First question, real quick, is how much of conspiracy theories can we attribute to just like stories being changed over time? So like I know that the first attempts at colonizing started in the early 1700s. The country isn't founded until 1776, so we have 170 years of attempted foundation of colonies, which is like, I don't know, 20, 30 generations of people, how much of like conspiracies or just stories is just, the passing of stories changing over time? And then my second question would be, if you do have any information, how many people do you think made it to the Americas before the original, Columbus expeditions?
So for the first question, I think there's always going to be the game of telephone in history. The great thing about our history here in America is it's not that far back in comparison to the rest of the world. And these people love to write. And England is an empire that has been around for a very long time. And so they documented everything. So if you know where to look, that 170 years, yeah, for sure, there were people out like in the wilderness, and you're never going to know what their day-to-day necessarily was like. But pretty immediately, it was organized over here. As far as you're talking about from 1607 up, the whole John Smith, Pocahontas era up to the Revolution, everything's pretty well documented. Now, everything is also going to be colored by whoever was in charge at that time and whoever was in charge of writing the history. And so that's where you get things like, John Smith being painted as this criminal who had no other choice but to come to the New World because he had no prospects in England, right? When years and years later, his autobiographical, it's like a 3-book set, comes out, and you get to learn his entire history. And he was a lot more substantial than what they say. And then still today, they're still, digging up that original. I mean, they didn't find the original site of the Jamestown fort until the 1990s. And to this day, even as late as 2010, they're digging up really important people who were buried there, like a guy named Sir Gabriel Archer, who was like the big swinging dong of that whole mission. And he died in Jamestown and was buried. Well, they found his grave in 2010, and he's buried with a small lead box on his chest. And that lead box is called a reliquary. And it's the same thing that you would find buried or inside of any altar in any Catholic church. It's a box that contains, it's how you consecrate an altar. It's a box that contains usually a religious relic of some sort. So it'll be shards of like a saint's bone. It'll be some holy water. It'll be some parchment of historical note. They find that in his grave. Well, at that time, that's King James I. That's Protestant. You're not allowed to be a Catholic. You're definitely not allowed to be a open Catholic and be an aristocrat and have any, like kind of substantial standing in society. And so not only was this guy like a crypto Catholic, he was super important, and everybody that he was over here with knew it and even buried him with those kind of Catholic honors. So there's always that game of telephone. And then as far as before 1607 and the amount of people who made it here, man, I definitely the Vikings, definitely some Scottish folks. I'm willing to definitely entertain that Prince Madoc thing. One thing I didn't get to say when we were talking about that guy that came up through Mobile, when Thomas Jefferson sent the Lewis and Clark expedition out west, one of the things that he specifically tasked them with doing was looking for this tribe called the Mandan Indian tribe, which had purportedly been a tribe that spoke a language very close to the Welsh language, and that there was a concentration of blonde-haired and blue-eyed and variations of within that tribe. And then that's kind of a that's kind of just like the last caller was saying, that European featured people being parts of these tribes is a thing that goes back for a long, long time in a lot of tribes. And when you look at where the Mandan people kind of lived and where they settled and where they moved through, I believe they sort of like followed the Mississippi, and that's where this Welsh guy, I mean, including like very specific words that are like exactly
the same as in
the
Welsh.
same, yeah.
Pablo, you one more question. We gotta wrap this up.
Oh no! I'm sorry. It was just two questions. I just wanted to mention. I know there's people who say that like the journey across the Atlantic was a very difficult journey. That's why Christopher Columbus was like the first to do it, or at least the first documented to do it. But you know, I sailed in high school. I do still sail a little bit when I have some free time, which I never do anymore. But the thing that most people don't talk about is that, you know, it's like, oh, it was an arduous, 3-month journey, 6-month journey, however long the journey was to cross the Atlantic to the New World. What they don't talk about is like the amount of sea life that was accessible at that time. We think about the ocean now because non-regulation for fishing in the ocean has just depleted the ocean, and nobody talks about it, or very few people talk about it. The ocean used to be filled with everything. Billions of fish, billions of dolphins, whales, like the amount of animal life, the biomass of animal life in the ocean was scales magnitude more. So the ability to sustain yourself on the ocean, much easier prospect to do back then.
Interesting point.
Several centuries back.
Yeah, and that's
so, when people say it's like, oh, you would have ran out of supplies. That's not a real thing. Back then, the supplies were the ocean. The only thing you would have to worry about is like running out of fresh water. But there's plenty of people who have documented being able to distill water from fish, or just drinking the fish, water off of getting their water from like fish blood, or just from fish, the ocean itself, essentially. So I don't think it was a hard thing to do. We just like to attribute it to Christopher Columbus because it was the most well documented.
And that is what pushed a lot of the exploration too. The Scottish moving up into, the northern fishing grounds and whatnot and the Vikings as well. It's just a logical step. You keep up through the Orkney Islands and over into Greenland and everything, and you just keep following those land masses, and you end up on the East Coast.
Yeah,
right. And it was a lot of times it was for fishing.
Good call, Pablo. Thanks, man. Pablo, everybody. All right, last call of the night. It's the return of Slav. Phone lines are closed because I see someone trying to get in. Slav, welcome back.
I've been drinking. What's up?
You called me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to bring up something about Benjamin Franklin, but I wanted to give my personal opinion on NAGPRA, and Goob knows this one. I support NAGPRA for the worst intention possible, being that if they push this, these goddamn wagon-burning savages will have to shut the fuck up forever, because if they bitch and moan about boo-hoo this, oh, woe me, they did this and that to us, I'm like, tell me the proof.
Wait, you think they're going to get rid of that part of it? You think that they're going to be like...
there's no proof. There'll be nothing they can show.
Well, they're going to have cherry-picked proof. It's still it's still going to be like, hey, these are the things we have, and they're still going to have that line of
this
thought.
Isn't probably very politically correct to agree in some very small way with Slav here, but I will say that
we all find ourselves agreeing with him at some point.
There has been a push, and like I said, I come from Native American stock, but there has been a push, especially up through the 60s was a big part of it, to paint all Native Americans as these dream catcher building, it's kind of what they've done to Jesus. Everybody, Jesus is a hippie, and all the Native Americans were
no, dude.
Were
Jesus
peace loving
was flipping
hippies.
tables and
Yeah, but they there's
Jesus
actually
he's sitting there for an hour making a fucking whip.
there's actually I can't remember his name, so it's probably not a point. But there's actually a Native American who is from out west, and he's written a couple books, and his whole deal is kind of trying to bring truth to that community, and he just kind of points out in his books the gnarliness of some of these tribes early on, and their practices of slavery and their practices of torture and things like that. Like, yeah, we definitely came over here and took the land. But
that's my favorite version. I like the violent one.
They weren't all like holding hands and singing Kumbaya when we got here.
Sure.
In fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the last like even up into the Civil War, the last people to release their slaves were a band of Cherokees out in Texas or Oklahoma, because they said, "Hey, it's the law now. We're releasing our slaves," and they were like, "Yeah, that's not our law." Like,
yeah, they're like, the white man's screwing us again.
yeah. It's so again, they weren't all these peace loving. They had the same issues and violence and war and chaos that everybody had, and I do appreciate that guy. I wish I could remember his name, who's kind of trying to be like, hey, yeah, there's that, but there's also, they were doing gnarly stuff to each other.
Fair enough. Anything else there, Slav? I gotta wrap this up.
I was gonna mention my Ben Franklin thing.
Yeah, what's your Ben Franklin thing?
The last thing about the Indians is they fell off pretty hard, man. They're all just now lined up at the liquor store and sweeping casino floors.
They own the casino floors. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So, then that's
sweet, dude.
Still complain.
Fucking literally, they own the Hard Rock Hotel. Like the whole chain of Hard Rocks is a Indian band.
Okay, well.
All right.
That's
good talking to you, Slav.
Indian band.
Well, Ben Franklin. What is it? Oh yeah. So my thing with Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
Is the guest aware of what Ben Franklin warned America about when it comes to the Jew?
I just watched actually a documentary on Ben Franklin, and that did not come up anything about my people.
Well, there was a lot of the Jews have always been disliked by one group or another, so that's not surprising. But Ben Franklin wasn't.
I wonder who made that Ben Franklin documentary, though.
Yeah,
that they would.
Ben Franklin wasn't a sweetheart himself. Look at the home that he lived in while he was in England.
He really fucked his wife over. That's a big part of that whole thing.
They've also found hundreds of dead of skeletons buried beneath the
that
home
dude
that he lived in.
Yeah, that guy was not very much the Ben Franklin documentary, which is like a kind of a funny like modern twist, was just like how bad of a husband and father he was, and you're like, I don't give a shit about that. The guy came up with lightning rods.
He was a narcissist, man. He was. He has sort of the profile of a serial killer. He was definitely a narcissist.
Sharp dude, though.
But he was
smart guy.
Well, but Ben Franklin was Henry Ford of his time. Like, have you ever read Henry Ford's book, the collection on the International Jew?
Yeah, no. Henry Ford was kind of a dick too, though. He was another Robert.
Yeah,
Barron.
well, it's a very, very excellent book. I mean, people want to hype up Mein Kampf and 200 Years Together, but I think the most technical books on the international wandering, stateless, subversive Jew is Henry Ford's work. And citing Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin literally warned America, like he warned America, and we didn't listen. And
you know what's even more subversive? You know what's even more subversive is that the internet is calling this thing fake. They're saying that Ben Franklin didn't say that, and that there's this thing. You were talking about the Franklin prophecy,
Well, are you using,
and they call it the
are
Franklin
you
forgery.
using Jugal?
No, yeah, of course.
Are you using Jugal? Yeah, you got to use Brave, brother.
Well, I would point you to a founding father who was actually worth a shit, and other than Ben Franklin, and that's John Adams, who was never a part of any secret society and actually was a pretty decent, hardworking human being who didn't have those sorts of things to
Sure.
disparage groups.
All right, Slav, we got to go. Good talking to you. Slav, everybody, that's been the show. Ernie, where can people find you? Find more of you.
So Virginia is for conspiracy lovers anywhere that you find podcasts. I'm an idiot, and I made a Facebook page and an Instagram for this thing and used different names for everything. So Virginia is for conspiracy lovers, the full name for podcasts. Our Facebook is also for Virginia is for conspiracy lovers. So I guess I didn't do too bad there.
That's not bad.
And then Instagram is gonna be VA conspiracy lovers, all one word. And then YouTube, which we do a lot of visuals with our podcast. So it's a good reference for listening there. And our YouTube is VA Con Lovers Podcast, which sounds like a damn podcast about Virginians who
criminals.
are into convicts. Yeah.
Can I
Sounds
make
like
a recommendation?
Yeah.
Is make a link tree, and then just like go buy a domain for $10, forward it to the link tree, and then just put all your links in Linktree, and then you do not have to ever go through the spiel ever again. You just go, this is the website, and it'll just show all those links.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
And it'll cost you $10. $10 a year, but well spent. All right, Ernie, thank you again for coming on. This is very cool. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me, man. It was fun. It was fun.
That was awesome. All right, take care, man.
All right, you too. Bye bye.
Ernie. All right, that's been the show. Oh, we got. Well, you know what? Let's talk to Gerard for a second. Let's see how Gerard's doing. And I'm gonna give away a Patreon
location.
Gerard, how was your first day as producer?
Pretty eventful.
Pretty eventful?
Yeah.
People I think are generally pretty pumped to have you on board.
Oh yeah. I saw some of the comments. I really appreciate all the support in the comment section.
Nice. Yeah, you did a great job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was touch and go for a while.
Touch and go at the beginning, but I can see on my end that you kind of figured it out there at the end. But it's again, it's if you haven't done it before, it's not exactly super intuitive. So anyways, I'm just killing time while I
yeah, it was fun to do it from this I've joined other live streams, been put in the studio while I was waiting to speak, and it's kind of interesting doing it from the other end, siphoning people into the queue.
Cool. Hold on, fucking man, I'm really struggling right now to pull up this screen here. Okay, here we go. We're gonna give away a Patreon.com low value mail membership to one of the super chatters. If you want to support the show, you can do so. Patreon.com/low value mail. Also, there's no bathhouse tomorrow night. I'm sorry, I have a scheduling conflict, but we'll be back next week. And the winner is, and if you win, you can. If you're already a Patreon member, get an extra 6 months. If not, hit me up. And Dylan Farnham legs it out. Dylan Farnham, everybody, hit me up. I can extend your thing, or you can give it to somebody else. Somebody's calling in right now for some reason. I don't know why. All right. Thank you, Gerard. You're the man. Thank you to everybody. That has been the show. We will catch you all next week. Have a very lovely night. Goodbye.
Really a poet, you know it, all my shit heroic. Empathic abilities, yeah, my face be also stoic. Bleep blow up, nigga, that just means I'm working. They see me as a leader, so that's why I'm Captain Kirkin. These tracks from the stars, that much is for certain. You can feel this hit if you up or if you hurting. I'm raising my stock, not talking my feet in some Birkin. Number Johnny 5, got a fucking short circuit. Bring the track to life when I spit phenomenal. When I hit, she feel that shit in her abdominals. These rappers make me life like comic view, they comical. You know I got a ball out, I hit the track running just like Sonic do. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. They was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. And they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. Now we pulling up fresh on some flight shit. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. They was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. Then they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah. Now we pulling up fresh on some flight shit.